Commissioner meeting for Custer County will come to order. Let the record show today is May 8th. The time is 9:00 a.m. I wonder if Miss Meredith Nichols, our administrative assistant, would do the honor and lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
Sure.
Thank you.
Pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, ma'am. One counselor. How are you, sir?
Which counselor? Me?
Yeah. Let me look around. You better be the only one we got.
Well, that's marginal.
Yeah. Madam Clerk, would you call the roll, please?
Commissioner Flower.
Present.
Commissioner Candy.
Here.
Commissioner Prince.
Here.
Attorney Clint Smith.
Present.
And clerk to the board, Kelly Campbell, present.
Thank you, ma'am. Appreciate it. Amendments to the agenda, gentlemen?
I have none, sir.
None here.
I don't know whether to add it to the agenda or bring it up under commissioner items.
Bring it up.
Contract of it.
Yeah, contract for the immunization.
I'd amend it.
So I would move to amend the agenda to add signing contract for public health,
Second.
for the contract for immunization. Been moved and seconded to amend the agenda to add under new business, signing or consideration of signing the contract for public health. Is there any discussion?
No.
Hearing none, we'll proceed to vote. All in favor of amending the agenda, say aye.
Aye.
Aye, opposed nay. Motion carried. We'll put that under new business. Immunization contract. Thank you, appreciate that. And then, that's all I had. Audience introductions?
Jackie Bubis for the Sentinel.
John Carroll, VSO. Bob Jolly, Airport. Lynn Liberty, Airport.
Welcome, nice to have you. I don't believe we have any minutes this morning yet to approve, so we'll move on to commissioner items. Commissioner Canada, would you like to start?
Not a lot happened since yesterday afternoon at 2 o'clock. It did rain. I did get talk to Kathy Garcia about rescheduling me. I mentioned that to you earlier, and I'll get the new attendance list for that meeting to everybody to make sure. One thing that you all saw that reminded me of that was the Adam Rice's note. Did you read that?
No.
He still hadn't gotten his card, and he was looking forward to.
Who was that note to?
It was to all this, you, me, Tom, you, Jay, and the senator, and Kathy Garcia.
When was this?
No, I don't remember seeing it, but.
Yeah, it's
Very possible, I just don't
it
remember.
was mailed 2 days ago. I think it was.
Email?
Yeah.
Hold on, let's look.
So he hadn't gotten his card to credit card, you know, the card that he can reimburse their CenturyLink, get him reimbursement for the phone.
Huh.
You don't have coming up?
I sure didn't see it, doesn't mean I didn't get it. Let me
Okay.
look real quick.
You can do a search under
Mine
Ross.
too.
See if I can find it. Hold on, my computer is smoking. It's
No, I sure don't have it.
Price.
um,
It was sent on the 6th. Here it is. It's got the board of board inquiries. I'm sorry.
6th. No.
No, he didn't send it to you. He sent it to the board inquiries CenturyLink, and then Becky and Kathy Garcia.
I don't have it.
I saw board and I didn't
Okay.
pay any attention to
And
it.
he sent it to you as well, or?
Yeah, apparently I got it.
And what is this in regards to?
It's for his reimbursement card for phone service.
Okay. Yeah.
Just, you know, everybody else has got one. I don't know why he's having a problem, but we would be able to help him on that
I
tomorrow.
didn't get that.
And I'll talk to Tim this afternoon and see what the deal is on that.
You said you'll help him with it tomorrow?
No, I'll cook this afternoon.
Oh, okay, good. misunderstood you, thanks.
Yeah, I saw board, I didn't even look at them, so used to seeing board.
Okay,
Alright, but that's it for today, we'll move on.
let's see, so yesterday before I left, Jackie Hobby came in and asked if her and I could quick hammer out a vacancy announcement to send to the newspapers before the deadline on Tuesday at the close of business. So we did that. It's certainly not your 15 paragraph vacancy announcement. We just wrote one. I can send it to you real quick if you're interested in seeing what we did send.
15 paragraph?
Well, you read some of these vacancy announcements, by the time they get through telling everybody what they don't have to do. Ridiculous. So,
You didn't put a salary in, did you?
no, I did not. No.
When are we talking about that? We can discuss that, is that part of this? Salary planning?
No, it's not.
No, we ought to talk about it, if we're gonna put it in.
Yeah, it is.
It is?
On the-
Consideration of
Is that for the clerk?
planning clerk position.
Sorry. I pulled up an agenda off of my packet and I
Thought we talked about that, cause
had two of them and I opened the wrong one. My agenda is not the
Yeah,
correct
you put it on
agenda.
yesterday.
we needed to,
It's on
do
my
that.
written agenda, just not on my computer, so sorry. Yeah, so we could discuss that today. Get reorganized here, I'll send that to you in just a minute. And then, Alyssa Lavengood brought over 2 contracts, obviously I've already mentioned those. Told her I would try to deal with those today. And then I went over and started, some demo work and, Alyssa and I tore up part of the carpet on the new public
new
health
building,
offices, so we're
How's
gonna
it
try
look
to
to you?
get, good. We'll try to get things in a situation where we can make a good run at it on the 15th, but yeah, we're gonna move, tear out a wall and slide it over and make the exam room bigger. And then build a little partial wall in there to close off the storage area a little more. And then do the carpeting and the painting and
so what are we gonna do before the 15th, is there anything, before I leave town, I can go there?
well, I'm gonna go there this afternoon,
We've got a small dump truck I could bring in.
yeah, I brought my trailer in, we'll just throw a sheetrock and the carpet on it, and I'll take it out to the landfill.
Just dump?
Pardon?
Just your-
No, I'll pitch it off my hand. Went by and leaned on the ag teacher, his students are gonna go load it
Oh.
for me this afternoon, so after our meeting, our workshop, I'll go over there and get that moving on, so, that's what I did yesterday. Mr. Prince?
I got a notice this morning from Kathy Rice on the letter,
Yes.
setting up a meeting for the speed limit, asking to separate. And just on a comical note, you may have noticed that on this 200 block of West Cliff, they restriped, the lanes at more of an angle so that the vehicles can go
Little
without
more
going
room.
around into the opposite lane. So they moved them from this way to that way, so longer vehicles could go in a tree. But what they failed to notice after they finished painting completely is that when you go like this and go like this, it narrows the lane.
Yeah.
So now it doesn't meet, so we're gonna black them all out again.
Ah,
and do it
no.
all over again.
I noticed that yesterday.
I think
Park
it's-
there.
Yeah.
Wow.
So, a little snafu, they'll fix. I just said that as comical, so if anybody at Westwood's
Yeah.
watching, we're not gonna let them get away
But
with
you know, that's
screwing
part of
up
the
like
character
that.
of Westcliff, Jay. It's okay if you do that, and it's okay if you kind of wander into the lane and just take it. That's the tourist thing, that's okay.
The attorney's really concerned about somebody's truck extending too far, and you go out into the oncoming lane and have an accident, and we know that's occurring.
Yeah.
I'm very concerned that the town of Westcliff will
They,
be renamed Smithville or something, whoever
Yeah, they
sues
could.
us.
Did they, decide to put a sign up for the big long trucks to park on the side streets?
Yeah, they're
Got
gonna,
that.
they're gonna be banned. In fact, what they have is, once the lanes are established to the correct dimensions, they'll have a white line in the back, and they're gonna put signs up all along saying that if your vehicle extends beyond that, you're in
Park around the
violation of
corner.
code. So they're gonna start issuing
That'd be hard to
probably
enforce.
warnings for the first couple of weeks and then tickets after that. So,
Well, I will go on record, since you're the attorney for the town of West Cliff, I'd like you to know this right up front. I have decided that I'm gonna solve my own parking issue in the 200 block. And I started with the meeting with Congressman Tipton. I parked on the south side of the street, and I knew my pickup would extend out into the street, so I ran the right front tire up onto the sidewalk. And I'm gonna continue to do that until I get a ticket.
and you will eventually.
And then I'll come in here and raise hell with the commissioner. Yeah, I'll bet
Don't
you.
put 'em on the agenda.
Yeah, well,
I was just adding a little levity, so
Yeah,
I didn't think it is.
Yeah.
I thought somebody would say something to me that day we met with Congressman Tipton, nobody did, but it makes a significant difference. And, so if I'm not obstructed by a trash can or tree, that's the deal. I'll end up with a bent rim someday, but,
At any rate.
yeah.
How hungry you are.
I guess the bottom line is, I really didn't do anything since yesterday morning, but I wanted to say something, so there it
There
is.
you go. Perfect. Well, I'll bet you
Yeah,
that,
this is not a contest, Jay.
I understand.
yeah,
So I like the hump.
yeah. And we talked about Upper Ark. I'll just reiterate today that I will be attending that meeting on, tomorrow. That's their regular, monthly meeting. I will go to that, and then I'll also attend that.
You get
On the
the
29th.
forwarded maps.
Yes,
You
I
guys
did, yeah, thanks.
Okay, so, I was confused then, please help me. Tomorrow is the regular
Yes,
meeting,
sir.
not the.
That's correct.
Okay.
29th.
29th is the blue line.
Thank you, I was confused.
Anything else on the Upper Ark?
No.
Okay. Attorney items, I'll bet he's done a lot.
I have. Yesterday I talked about the letter I'd sent to the executive director of the medical center. I still haven't gotten any response or contact. I'm not gonna push that for right now. We can interpret it a couple of ways. Either she's seeking legal advice before she responds, or they're just gonna accept it and we don't have an issue here, so I'll wait on that a little bit. I wasn't sure from our meeting yesterday, after we talked about the proposed contract with Riley Johnson, who was gonna take the initiative to
We
contact
never
Shannon.
did.
But I did contact Shannon and told him that we're gonna have a workshop, and he wanted to know who should organize it, and I told him to coordinate with Meredith to find a date that would work for everybody, and get that set up as soon as possible. The other thing I asked him, because to me what's more important than some of the language in there is the working relationship that Riley Johnson has had, and I asked him, because I know he went to Rio Blanco County Meeker and talked to them, and he went down to Alamosa and talked to them, and he said those folks had nothing but praise for Riley Johnson as far as being able to work with them and being very accommodating and attentive to whatever the needs were, so I think we got a very good choice here for an architect.
Clint and I ran each other in the hall, I volunteered to help.
Yeah, for a point of contact, it seems logical, since Bill's had so much experience doing this from here on out on those kinds of questions. They should contact you for legal issues if there are any. They'll still talk to me. And then finally, I know all of you have been getting some emails from Mr. Howard, and
Really?
and if you get anything, please let me know. I mean, because I knew he would start up again.
Want me to
eventually.
forward them to you? So you're collecting them?
Yeah, I do. I collect them because at some point I may have to take some legal action again,
See here.
especially after all of you have, and I know that all of you should do what Tom has done and what Shannon did, is just tell him, please take your name off his email list. You don't want to receive any more messages. So I would say do that and send me a copy of that, and then if he keeps on doing it, I may consider seeking some sort of
Harassment.
injunctive, well, not harassment so much as an injunction, which is, I guess, based on the constant harassment of unwanted emails.
I may have ditched them.
And that's fine, cause I know you've got the same ones they've gotten so far, but I'm still monitoring it. I think most of his attention is still focused on Fremont County, but he's starting to sneak back in here again, which I expected. So that's where we're at, and that's all I had to talk about.
If Fremont would just buy him that Hummer.
Yeah, give him that, Humvee,
You know,
armor plated, he needs an
I
armor
mean,
plated one,
seriously,
yeah.
you know, then he would leave us all alone.
Yeah, put a nice big decal on the side of it. Crazy man driving.
Thought maybe this one.
The last two just didn't even really make sense to me, of course, I've not been in the loop either, but it's like, what in the world are you talking about?
Don't read them, just send them to me, so I've got.
Yeah, I started to read and I didn't. I do have one here I'll forward to you, but I think he put it to me separately because he left me off his big list.
Yeah, I hadn't seen you.
I'm gonna send that to you.
Okay. I talked to Kay over in the court yesterday to see if he's still bothering them. He seems to have moved on, not filing stuff anymore with them.
Good. Anything else, sir?
No, it's a,
Okay, thank you. Move on, admin assistant. Anything, ma'am? Thank you. Public comment. Hearing none, we'll move on to staff reports. Eric Puerto, welcome.
Good morning. We say, Bob.
Good morning, sir. How are you?
Good morning, Mr. Feller. Enforcement. Glasses on.
I had to go home and get mine. I forgot them again this morning.
Okay. In April, we only sold about 100 gallons of fuel. The weather has not been real cooperative with us. Right now, our inventory's at 2271, and I lowered our fuel price to $4.43. Keeping up with the neighbors, Fremont's at $4.40, Pueblo's at $4.39, and Center's at $4.40. So I lowered ours to $4.43.
Walsenburg, working on.
They're down in the threes, I think.
You know what
Walsenburg
the price is down in Walsenburg?
Three.
was $3.90.
Somewhere around there.
That's a question from does airplane fuel fluctuate?
Yes.
Well, I know that, but I mean in conjunction with like automobile fuel, I noticed that, okay, that's what I wanted to know.
Automobile fuel is going up
I knew that,
and aviation fuel is going down.
okay, thank you. I
Right
just didn't
now,
know.
if we were to buy a load, it'd cost $3.78,
Cool.
and it was up to about $4, so it's gone down significantly.
Thank you, I just didn't know if there's a correlation.
This month, we had a problem with one of our gates, and one of our patrons couldn't get out of the airport because the electricity went off. So I told him, use the other gate. So he used the other gate and it opened fine,
Oh.
which means the battery was dead on that gate, which is the back battery when electricity goes out. So
Where is the battery? Is it in that box?
It's in the box.
Not a big battery?
No, it's got two batteries in it.
Oh.
Yeah, you wouldn't believe the price of them, I just bought 4.
Mm.
They're $17.50. So, $35 a box, and I looked in the owner's manual and they're supposed to last 3 years. It's been in there 7 years, so. We got our money.
Yeah.
Fix that.
Pay double for that.
But anyway, we did get those done. We also got the parking spot for big corporate jets when they fly in. We got that painted.
Got that painted now finally, good.
Yep, we got some signs put up. Got one at the end of the, our parking ramp that tells people not to park their cars there, and if they do, they're gonna be hauled off.
That reminds me, I'll forward to you two, and what I'm doing, I'll include Tom and Jay on the new plan view that Armstrong did of the ramp based on the wingspan of the biggest 900 Falcon, which is what they have. The wingspan's longer than what the standard one is. And so that there'll be a little bit more asphalt, but it'll give you a good feel for the, and they trace the taxi, the wingspan trace as it taxis. And it's very useful
Okay. And I'll also put up
for hazards.
a sign where all the public parks their cars,
Okay.
letting them know that if it doesn't have a current registration, it'd be towed off.
Good plan.
So, I've got those things done. I've got a new windsock put up, and got filter changed on our fuel system, and I got our notice airman list updated. And I sent you all a copy of our proposed special use permit. And wanted to know if you needed anything changed, or wanted anything changed, or if it's good to go.
I started through it, I haven't been,
I assume we need to put that on an agenda item. I would assume you probably wouldn't prefer it to be on the agenda item at Wetmore meeting,
No.
so we could do it up here.
But the people in Wetmore always ask about it.
Yeah, they ask every time we go down there.
where's Bob?
And when are they gonna cook burgers?
Yeah, tell them to have lunch.
Shall we
Yeah, brings a new
consider,
crowd.
shall we consider the SUP at the May 31st meeting?
Yeah, that'd be a good time, actually.
You'll have to ask us.
Sure.
Okay.
And
Meredith, would you mind putting that on the agenda under new business?
you doing any planning for the Memorial Day out there? Gotta advertise anything for
No.
airports? Run a Memorial
mean,
Day
we couldn't
special
do
on
something,
gas
huh?
or something? Yeah. You could do something,
We could do
just
something.
something
We
to
could do
get in the
something.
paper or something, cause there's gonna be a lot of people here that aren't normally here.
Yeah, we could do that. We've had a lot of traffic at the airport. We haven't had a lot of fuel sales because most of the traffic has been coming in corporate jets and twin turbos.
That'd be nice when we get them, get
Yes.
Jet A.
Yeah, if we had had Jet A, I had 2 calls during the month about, do you have Jet A, do you have Jet A? Well, we gotta stop here, we gotta stop there and
Yeah.
get fuel.
I got a question, just out of curiosity, on those big jets, do you have some piece of equipment where you can move them around, or
No.
do they taxi everywhere? If they need, they can turn around and do everything?
Yes.
Just curious.
Do they make time no needs?
I have 2 questions. One is,
You'll need a tug.
haven't heard any disaster stories about the fuel dispenser. Is that thing working okay
It
finally?
is working like it should.
Perfect. And the second one is the broken cement in front of where the fire truck is. Is that still in progress of getting repaired?
I haven't talked to the fire department lately. Last time we talked to them was about a month ago. And they are well aware that it is a problem, so. I did notice they got a new compressor on their fire truck, and you know, we're having problems with the water leaking all the time. So they got a new compressor to keep that system working, to keep it from leaking, but that compressor runs
Really?
a lot.
Oh,
Is it on the truck?
Yes.
Yeah.
And they keep the truck plugged in, so I'm keeping a little bit of an eye on our electric bill, because with that thing running 24/7,
It's plugged in, it's,
yes.
yeah, maybe would you mind shooting them a little letter, drafting up an email or something, and raise those 2 concerns? What's the
Okay.
plan for the concrete, and that you've noticed that compressor running a lot? I don't get why a compressor on that truck would run.
And it recycles the water through the valve that's having a problem, something, who knows?
Yeah.
I have to ask him.
I
I wanna talk to Kid about it.
I go out to the a lot, and
We'll be at the workshop tomorrow.
with the exception of once, that compressor has been running every time I've ever been at the airport.
They were also asking if you wanted to partner in a compressor. Did they ever follow through with that?
No.
I don't know if it was for that as a standalone or whether
It was for that,
it was.
and we'd happily
I know, that's what I
Because,
thought, I don't know why they didn't follow up with it.
I don't
That
know,
might have
but
been
when
a
they,
cheaper way of doing it than what they got going with that truck.
yeah, when they went
To ask
to,
them that.
when they went to Denver to get the truck repaired or wherever they took it to, they installed one on board and they put an electrical plug on the fender where they just plug it into the fender and the compressor runs.
Well, you know, if it's running a lot, it means it's kinda doesn't have a very big tank on it.
Yeah.
And so it's gonna, so maybe, we'll talk to Kid about it, maybe they could save money, if we could, or if we can share a bigger compressor on the ground.
Yeah, if you could drop something in the email, then you got a record of it as well.
Yeah.
So,
Okay, and I'll send you all the copies. I mean, I'll copy all
Yeah.
on the email. And, that's about it for the airport. Other than I did get a price update this morning, and fuel, or our price for fuel has gone down another 9 cents. Right now it's $3.78
That's good.
or if we were to buy a load today. So it's been going down steady.
What's the status of the insurance on the cars?
We're working on that. Jim Van Buskirk made some contacts yesterday.
Talk to Progressive.
He talked to several different ones. I think Progressive might have been one of them. He talked to the Salida Airport, who they have several courtesy cars, on who they use, so.
Yeah. Okay.
We are pushing that
Good if
forward.
you could get it before Memorial Day, that may not
That
be
would
in
be
the cards.
nice. That'd be nice if we could get it before Memorial. So we'll keep pressing on that issue. And that's about it.
All right, sir, thank you, appreciate it.
Next time, bring
Thanks for coming in.
Apple fritters, Bob.
Yeah, okay.
I'll come out and bring them to you.
I'm assuming that we're on an annual schedule now for a meeting out there, is that
I hope so.
Yeah.
I thought our last
You're
one
good,
went
we're
real
good.
well.
good? All right, thank you guys, appreciate it.
Those burgers were good, and we really appreciated that.
It was nice.
Yeah, that was,
It was
nice
fun.
and great.
Yeah, that was good.
And you can bring those next month.
Next time it'll be steak.
Whoa!
See you guys.
I'll put that in the paper.
Next item of
Everybody will be
business,
out there.
BSO, Mr. John, how are you this morning, sir? Good. Good.
John, you're looking
See you,
real,
sir.
real sharp today in your,
Yeah, well, I'm not wearing a suit. That's just not gonna happen on a regular basis.
Tim always came wearing a suit.
Yeah.
Oh, right. Let him lie to you.
never caught him without a
Shorts.
tie, did you?
Shorts, you're right. Yeah, you can pull the wool over my eyes. Alright. Alright, so, month of April, 19 calls, 31 office visits. I did have 3 home visits, one of which was for a Vietnam era veteran, who, very low income, had a stroke recently, and was completely out of water in a cistern. And I was able to coordinate with one of our water delivery guys and got him some water. And I am apparently now an official member of the Bunker Hills Boys, so I'm not sure what that means, but
Yeah,
Better look out for the sheriff.
have to wait and see, huh?
yes, he came in and brought me brand new hats, so it was
Wow.
interesting guy. He said he wanted to pay me in Civil War money. So,
$2, you'll get a cup of coffee.
yeah, I know. He said he had a Connex full of Civil War money.
Confederate money or?
Confederate, yeah.
Might be worth something.
Yeah.
Might
Uh,
be.
That was more than
I'm not sure.
Yeah,
He-
could
he
be.
is a character. I don't know if you guys have met Dan Cherry.
Met him, no, I'm aware of him.
Yeah, he's the guy that wanders around in Civil War uniforms, both sides.
Oh, yeah, I have seen that.
Yeah.
John, I have a question before you get too far. On
Yes,
the
sir.
veteran that needed water, I know you do this, but you're working with public health, Tommy Human Services to hook up with them because.
I did, because, with his stroke, his living conditions were, very bad. I mean, it was kinda scary. Even his water tank, the guy that delivered the water was like, "You sure you want me to put water in this thing?" But his well ran dry, and so he's can't flush his toilet and
Your
stuff
turn
like
today.
that. So,
Well, thanks, John. Appreciate you doing that.
two community events. One was the health fair. The other one was the Pueblo Vet Center. I had a meeting with John Durance, brought him up at Wednesday the 25th. Had about 8 people in attendance. He was talking about the services that Pueblo Vet Center can provide and hopefully bring up here, because they have a VA motorhome that they can use for counseling services and things like that. So hopefully we'll be able to work more with him in the future.
Thank you.
Lots of different forms. I did, the Veterans Trust Fund, we did our last dispersion a couple of weeks ago, and we were out of money until the next fiscal year. Have had a lot of requests for the VTF, but, and then James is gonna be trying to request even more money than we got this year, and
So that's October and thereon, right?
yeah. We do have a lot of, food in our food bank for the Veterans Trust Fund, so, I'm giving that out to anybody that is asking for food. Memorial Day, everyone is invited. The American Legion is putting on the same thing as, they usually do, again at the Silver Cliff Park. I'll be the master of ceremonies this year.
They didn't ask for a RSVP, but
Yeah.
Joanne and I'll be there.
Okay, I'll check with Bob and see if he's sending out RSVPs, later.
What time?
Well, we got a formal invite, it was a separate sheet,
Okay.
so, but we were
What time is
Let's
that?
see, what time is that?
10:30 or
Yeah.
something, I don't know.
I think it's at 10.
10.
I thought 10 o'clock.
I'd have to double check on that one. I haven't even written my speech
Yeah.
yet, so.
10 o'clock. You're all
On 2 weeks ago, I attended training in Pueblo, for the new appeals process. There are, back in February, they changed the appeals process, so, Roger Watkins and I attended a day-long class on that, so, I've been actually holding off appeals, because of, that training, so I've got new appeals coming in. We're starting up all those. Been working on a bunch this week. Reminder again, I'll be gone for training, June 2nd through 8th in Cleveland for my national accreditation. There's a state training conference that I'll be attending in August, and I'll get the dates on that later. June 7th, I won't be here, but there'll be American Legion representatives and VFW reps there, but the Colorado Board of Veterans Affairs, from 9 to 12 will be at Rancher's Roost conducting their monthly meeting. And that's, National Guard and Air National Guard and all the high up people in the CDBA will be there for the regular meeting, so. I wish that I could have been there for that one, cause that's an important meeting, but, I will have, my officers from the Legion there, so. And budget wise, $62.92 in office supplies, and then I'm assuming that the expenses, the 120, was for, building materials for my, wall.
Should not have been, but that doesn't mean that it didn't get there. I don't know if, Ms. Meredith, can we look into that? I'll forward you this document. You don't know of any other expenses you would have had, so.
No, not for
That
the
may have got
120.
posted to VSO, that work over there, it shouldn't have been.
Okay.
Should have been to
Yeah,
buildings
that-
and maintenance.
That was the only thing on my monthly budget that I was like.
You say it still had to
must
be
the wall.
painted still?
Yeah, it hasn't been painted.
Yeah.
So that'll be.
He's been working on sanding the,
Chris is supposed to start that
Is he?
this week.
yeah, he's been in the last couple of days sanding
Good.
lightly.
Big mess or not? Usually it's kind
Not
of a
really.
Do you like your wall?
issue.
I think it's
Are
gonna
you
work
happy?
well. I mean, you know, it is a really needed thing, cause if anybody's having a meeting,
You can hear it see it.
It's a two-way glass door, I mean, you might
Yeah.
well not even have a door there. I mean, it is better than nothing, but I do appreciate having that wall.
Meredith, that was for $120.35. So, I don't know how that got posted or in what manner it got posted, so we'll follow up on that, but that shouldn't go against your budget, that's building and maintenance.
Okay. And that is all I've got right now.
Good. Questions, gentlemen? You have your,
Go ahead and move that we accept the VSO report for April 2018.
I'll second that.
move second to, approve the Veterans, Service Office report. Any discussion? Hearing none, we'll proceed to vote. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye, opposed nay. Motion carries.
It is interesting, I definitely get the veterans in that are just coming in to meet me and kind of feel out who I am.
Good. That's what
You
want.
winning?
It's still, it's the combat vets that come in with that 1,000-yard stare and the glare, and I'm winning.
Good, thank you, sir. Appreciate it.
Thank you. Oh, yeah.
With the board's
Thank you.
consent, may I be excused for just a couple minutes? All right. Struggling here. I'm reading.
We recess, right?
You probably left soap in your cup, huh?
Pardon?
Soap in your cup, huh?
The soap was in his cup.
We will, meeting will resume. Thank you, gentlemen. I appreciate your patience. The next staff report is Extension. Good morning.
Hi, how are you guys?
Good, how are you?
Good.
See ya.
Good to see you.
Hey, how are you?
Here you been busy.
Oh, trying.
I love your first three words, I'm happy to. That always makes me feel good
Oh,
when I
good.
see that.
I try to switch up the intro every report, because you
Good.
guys could just gloss over it, so I gotta keep you on your
Right.
toes. Yeah. So, did you have any questions about what I submitted? Feel like 4-H is well underway and keep trying to slowly add to stuff every month. So someday I'm sure I'll be up to here, but things are going well, and I think trying to just support all the aspects of 4-H right now and build that out, which is kind of fun.
Good.
Yeah.
Good. Did we have any luck on a date for the weed tour?
No, that is something I still got to just secure. I was curious how that usually works. I know we talked about lunch at the board meeting. So I was like, well, if I'm the only one available, should I just move forward? Does the weed board want to be a participant in that?
Yeah, you know, we meet on the 21st. I was just looking to double check that date. maybe we ought to hold off and we'll just make a decision that day.
Okay.
It looks like it's gonna be further down the calendar than normal, I mean, than we originally expected, not normal, cause there isn't any normal.
Yeah.
But, yeah, maybe we ought to just talk about it then, pick
Okay.
a date and live with it.
Yeah.
Last year we did do a little lunch. We brought in Subway sandwiches, we met in the courtroom, had a little presentation, and then, ate lunch. No, let's see, I think we had a presentation, went on the tour, came back and ate lunch, but we might have eaten lunch before we went, I can't remember for sure.
Okay.
But, you know, that's the other thing, when you talk about it, that week board meeting, we get 20 or 30 people there, I'm not sure we are budgeted spring for sandwiches for that many people, so maybe we meet, have a little pastry, refreshment, fruit thing, and then go and call it good, so.
Yeah. We can ask them to bring a sack lunch or something.
Yeah.
That's easy.
Yeah. So, I would suggest maybe we hold off till.
Okay, that's fine.
And your gals all got certified at their
Oh,
food
yeah.
safety.
She said that they were the best, like the highest passing success rate.
Wow.
So you said above an average rate.
Yeah, I think the lowest score was an 88, and we got done an hour early, so I think
Good.
people are just like, so you can feel good purchasing stuff at the farmer's market, cause all those ladies know their stuff.
Won't run into any problem.
Yeah, no food poisoning. So that was great, and, we're trying to secure a canning class for the fall, just trying to meet those kind of timing of how people do stuff, so look for that. I'm working on putting out some sort of, here's our calendar of events, so hopefully I'll get that together soon.
Things settled down on the rifle team front.
I'm sorry, I don't know what you
They,
mean.
what was it, he had a problem with
No, the whole shooting sport.
shooting sports for 4-H issues.
Seems like it's going on.
Pretty
Yeah,
good. You got
yeah.
plenty of kids doing it.
Oh yeah, it's, there's 10 total. There's rifle, there's trap, and then Western Heritage, which is where the kids like really develop this old time Western persona. They act that out and stuff like that. And that's we have 3 participants this year, and so that's kind of exciting. They're really getting into it, and yeah, I think shooting sports is pretty interesting. It teaches a lot of good skills that you wouldn't think that gun safety would.
Aware.
Yeah, it's like responsibility, respect, all that kind of stuff.
Good.
So, yeah. A couple times ago, I had talked to you about a venue. Westcliff Town Hall came and talked to me, and they have said, come use our downstairs at Town Hall anytime for 4-H activities. No animals, unfortunately, but it is ADA accessible, so that is really great. So I think we actually have shooting sports scheduled. They're not gonna bring guns, but they're gonna do something down there on Friday, cause it's supposed to snow, but it doesn't really look like it, so trying to work those out. Yeah. I talked to Justin Crawl yesterday. We're gonna do a fishing with 4-H on the 7th of June, and he's gonna bring out some fishing poles and stuff like that, and just get kids kind of outside and loving where they live, so that's step 1.
Excellent.
I have had a lot of calls about pinyon beetle. It's kind of one of those Ips beetles, and it's affecting all of Colorado, but specifically all the pinions here. So if you guys hear of anything, it does become a fire hazard eventually, so that's kind of wrapping into all this emergency preparedness that we're looking at, but apparently Custer County has a lot of acreage, and it just continues to grow every year. Certainly stressed by drought. It's not a death sentence for the trees, but they do turn orange, unfortunately. Went out on a property yesterday, and it does not look good, so just,
What part of the county did you go in yesterday?
Fremont, right at the line of Copper Gulch, yeah, in Beckwith branch, so. And then someone from Bear Basin came in with a very sad looking branch, so just something on your radar if you hear that and see that. And then otherwise, CSU's fiscal year ends in June, so June 30th, so just doing some fun budgetary stuff like that, which is actually not fun, but we're necessary, so that's kind of all I've been up to.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Yes, ma'am.
Sweet
Questions?
potatoes?
Oh, yeah, I missed that this year, so unfortunately, I know, I'm so sorry, that was the one thing that I
The
was so.
only thing anyone cared about, seed potato.
I know, I feel like a bad extension agent, so, but it is definitely, I got on the list
It's
for.
on your list for next year.
Yes, and hopefully people will forgive me for this
Probably
year.
won't start between now and then,
Yeah.
but, yeah, no.
Yeah, right.
What time's your extension advisory committee meeting on the 21st?
4:15, is that right, Kelly?
It is.
Yeah.
And we're at,
We've usually been meeting here in the courthouse, but, we might move it over to West Clark, whatever works for you guys.
we've got that VSO office walled off, so there's a little more privacy too,
Okay.
so I think that'll be
Okay.
also a good meeting place.
I will send out an email.
So 4:15, you said?
Yep.
Okay, well, good.
Yeah.
I'm excited about all the stuff you're involved in. It's great to have people coming into the office with
Yeah.
stuff, so.
Yeah, definitely, it's good, feel useful.
Good, that's,
Yeah.
that's great. Very good.
Yeah.
Anything, oh, I had a question for you about the pickup fundraiser, the truck.
Oh,
What's-
yeah,
How do you, what's your share of the proceeds? Do they,
so if we meet $7,000 in revenue, we get half. And then every $500 in addition that we raise, we get that $500? I'd have to look at the paper, but essentially with
in
all.
ticket sales, you're talking, so if you sell $7,000 worth of raffle tickets, you get
Yeah,
3,500. Wow.
yeah, which is pretty good,
Yeah,
and
it
we
is.
got the truck for the week of the 4th of July, so I'm gonna put it in the 4th of July parade.
Yeah.
And then it's somewhere else for, the fair, but we can call Canyon City and get like another truck
Oh, yeah.
up here,
Good.
and, Janet Freeberg has agreed to sell tickets out of her little,
Booth,
yeah.
food booth concession thing, good,
So,
good, good.
yeah, you looking for a new truck, Tom?
Nope, I'll support it. but
Yeah.
I do
One for
not-
each hand.
Yeah, right?
Do not need another truck, that's for sure.
I don't know if I can enter, but I could take a truck.
Oh, well then if I win, I'll give it to you.
Okay, it's
You
recorded,
what?
right? It's
This
on
is
record.
the one.
Yeah, it's on record, that's right, and you have
One-
witnesses.
Yeah, right.
One time in my life,
Sweet.
yeah, so. All right, ma'am, very good, thank you. Everything else going okay?
Yeah.
Kids doing good?
Oh, yeah, yeah. Yeah, if they would just not be sick sometimes,
Yeah,
that would be really
well, it's
great.
tough, isn't it?
Good luck with that.
Very tough.
It's like constant.
Well, need anything, give us a holler.
Okay, thanks.
All right,
All
thanks,
right,
ma'am.
thanks. I'll go this way.
Yeah,
Nice to
there you
see
go.
Nice to see you.
Take care.
Take care.
Keep having fun.
I will. What's work if
Thank
it's
you,
not a
ma'am.
little bit fun,
That's
right?
right.
Thanks, guys.
The airport guys were with Donna, and I've called Brandon in Donna's office.
Okay.
If y'all wanna.
Yeah, if you guys need a break, take a little break.
Wow.
We'll stand in recess.
Nobody being that good.
Well, I would if somebody else would, just to get up and walk around.
That go that way.
Okay. Did you hang up the phone or lady? Now we'll call the meeting back. There we go. Good morning.
I need a mirror.
Comes our basketball team.
Yeah, the basketball team, that's right.
Wow.
Hey,
How are you?
not bad, how about you?
She's gonna make some more, Shannon.
I'll make some for you.
That'll help.
I'm not sure I've given Tom his direction.
I guess a question I have for you. Would you be available to come back in during new business when we discuss salary for having a zoning clerk?
Jackie asked me if I could come, so I've got paperwork
Good.
I can share.
Yeah, that'd be great, thank you. Should have asked you yesterday, but my afternoon got out of control. In a hurry. What do you think? Good?
Yeah, just normal,
Normal business? That's,
just normal. Yeah, just,
I don't know how we respond if you said, well, we're below normal or we're above normal,
well,
so.
yeah, I
Both
would
could be
have told, I
scary.
would have sent a piece of paper that said,
Yeah.
don't ask that question.
Let's see, this is, May. June is the middle of the year. Maybe, we ought to have a little budget workshop or something, just to see how each fund, or not fund, but organization is tracking against what they proposed their budget is.
And most everybody looked like they were at about
Yeah.
33%.
Saw that.
On
I
theirs.
wondered if, then it's time to start talking, is there anything special project wise, or look like there's something we're gonna need a change for that, we would talk about, if there is such a thing.
On there.
Moving funds back and forth where we got an opportunity to do it.
On there. Now,
It'd be, unless it's looking like everybody's fine.
I've not
know that.
noticed anything,
Yeah, these percentages
Yeah.
will give you some
They're pretty
idea
good,
of
but-
where they're at, but.
But they, sometimes what, a percentage for the year is one thing, but then it's, there's some organizations that we don't even get our budget, the money comes in clumps. We also spend it sometimes, you're flat for a while and all of a sudden,
and see, the beginning of January is a bad year, because all those premiums and everyone's in their
Right.
dues, and it is devastating.
anyway, it's something
The
to
balance back down.
think about. Maybe I could ask, send a note out just from you to each organization to say how you think your budget is tracking, not that you spent less.
And I would prefer if it came from you,
Well, it
because
can
I'm
be.
on there, I don't need to tell them that
Oh,
they're being
sure.
budget wise or.
No, but it would be
You know, that it's a
it would be
workshop.
for us to report to us, but something to think about here.
Okay, but, no, absolutely.
Yeah, I didn't see anything that was,
Yeah,
nothing really out
nothing
there.
jumped out at it.
Nothing jumped out.
But that is something that we need to discuss of how people, but we just can't have $10,000 pots in everybody's budget for a project, but, if I had like 50 grand in grounds, but it just, I don't have enough
Right. Well,
to cover all those, and then the tracking, but that's something that if somebody has a great idea, I'm on board, I just don't know what the answer is.
yeah, I think, as Commissioner Candy indicated, if somebody knew next year, let's say, for example, we're gonna remodel the BSO office completely, well, we need to know about that. ahead of time, obviously. It may not happen, but at least we could have a discussion.
Okay.
You know, rugs throughout the building or
Right.
rugs outside, you know, something that we're, you know, we could designate that in the.
And may I rabbit trail for just a minute since you brought up the proverbial subject of rugs? We had talked about, just inter-office discussion about contracting with a service to replace these hall rugs once in a while. That one in the foyer on the east side of the building is gnarly this morning.
New Method Laundry,
New Method Laundry, yeah. Do you remember it was
$12 a rug.
$12 a rug per month, probably do that once a month. I would imagine we're looking at 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, for sure 4. There's
They just
one
come
over in
replace
planning and zoning, correct? Pardon?
They just come replace.
Yeah, they just pick them up, drop new ones down, and
Yeah, so, well, they clean them, and then while he has them, they bring a rug, so that there is one.
drop, they just replace, yeah. There's one over in planning and zoning, 3 in this hallway.
We have one in our office in front of our counter too.
Okay,
That's
so
granted.
we'll be 5. So, I think we ought to at least look into that. And, yeah. I don't know if you noticed the smell off of that one in the east. Anytime after we get some moisture, that one gets, and that's a brand new rug. We just replaced it this summer, or this spring. So it's already fairly aromatic. So I'd like to pursue that if that's all right with you gentlemen. Ms. Meredith, make a note of that, and we'll follow up.
We're talking $60 a month to do that.
Yeah.
That would probably help Stephanie too.
Well, again, if it doesn't break the vacuum, because the rugs were kept better, that we didn't, so it saved in the long run.
Motion, can we
Yeah,
do that?
sure. Let's do it.
So I move that we authorize up to $75 a month, for rug service within the county buildings. And if it exceed, that's my motion.
Okay.
There's a second on that.
I'll second it.
Okay, and the rest of that is if it actually turned out to be higher than that, we'll come back and revisit it.
So it was 60 a month.
Yeah, I said 75 in case there's a rug or two.
So-
We might be missing one. but-
That's why I said that.
So it's been moved and seconded to authorize, the expenditure of $75 a month for, hall rug maintenance, cleaning.
And then
Discussion.
out of grounds and building 208.
Yes.
Okay, yeah, so you just said hall, not, one sentence before that, it was the county building rugs.
Well, this
So it
is
sounds-
county building.
Well, I know, so is it the hallway, or is it like this room?
No, the hallway
We're talking about
traffic rugs.
Okay, the runners, so, okay,
Yeah,
that's trying to,
not cars,
Yeah.
just the runners that we
okay,
have.
yeah, okay, that makes more sense, cause if it was the carpet, it'd be more than that.
I agree.
Yeah, okay.
It'd be nice to do
It'd
the
be nice to
carpet.
hit the carpet once in a
Further
while.
discussion?
Once a year would be
Once a
nice.
month.
Once a year would be a good
Well,
one.
we did try cleaning the DHS carpet. It helped, but certainly wasn't,
Brought out color and
adequate,
some of it.
so we probably need to have that professional cleaned. Okay.
Yeah, yeah.
Any further discussion? Hearing none, proceed to vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carries. Thank you. Sorry, but when you mentioned that rug thing, I thought, So,
And I'll code it for them.
yeah, 208,
And Road and Bridge used to do that because of the grease.
right.
They couldn't, yeah.
Yeah. I would assume they probably have a contract on shop rags, but I don't know.
Yeah,
I haven't nosed around. down
nobody's
there,
asked
so.
me, so I didn't.
Okay. Anything else, ma'am? Okay, we'll see you in a little bit, huh? Thanks for coming back for that.
All right, you're welcome.
That will be valuable.
I'll talk to you about the process, maybe.
Okay, something to, yeah,
Come back and
absolutely.
decide what we want to do.
Okay, perfect, thanks.
Process it.
Just a quick review of how we.
Oh, budget, yeah, sorry. Okay, are we ready to adjourn, gentlemen, or?
Is there another break?
Should we take another break? IT,
Oh, it's,
come forward there.
Oh,
Didn't see you
Vernon's
there.
here.
How are you?
Morning.
Good morning, how you
Miss
doing?
I was hiding behind a molecule there.
That's a big molecule.
Yeah, exactly.
We call them tornadoes, hurricanes, and cyclones, but hey, whatever. How are
Yes,
you?
indeed. I am well, thank you.
Good, good. You're have now officially 2 offices, so you got more space.
Well, yeah, exactly. Just expanding out into some,
That's right.
some
Just
unused
spreading out,
space
yeah.
before. so.
Spreading out, that's
Yeah.
right.
It's actually in here somewhere. So we know.
Okay. Follow that.
Mhm.
Questions, gentlemen?
Criminal Justice Information Systems, that's a pretty long term for,
I got a next level CJIS certification to work with the 911 system
Oh.
and the assorted software involved with that. So
Cool.
that was exciting. Nice long test for it. So.
So,
Mhm.
if I may,
Yes, sir.
thank you.
Okay, yes.
You know, we're gonna be vacating, the public health nurse is gonna be moving. And we are providing to the clinic,
Mhm.
is it fiber or is it broadband? What are we?
What I'm doing is I am beaming high-speed internet through it's called a nano bridge,
I understand.
a point-to-point bridge, and they have limited them to about 40 megabytes a second. So they've been testing it over the last few weeks, and they're actually doing the final cutover today. So
Okay. Is there an expense to the county for that?
I put all the equipment on last year's budget, and it's basically, it doesn't affect us at all.
Okay.
We paid for it last year, and so.
It's not a monthly fee or reoccurring? What I'm trying to say is, I'm delighted to help the clinic as much as we possibly can, but if there was an expense, it'd be appropriate for us to get reimbursed, I would think.
Understood, yes.
Yeah, that's not the case, that's great.
so it would be if
No.
you hadn't had this stuff before.
If I hadn't bought the stuff last year,
It's
because
real.
this has been an ongoing project to get it set up.
But more than last year or this year was the fact of you were shooting a beam over there for public health, correct?
Yes, we started with public health, and that was successful, so then
They
we
branched.
out to work with the clinic. Now, the clinic is, it's been talked about publicly, so I can talk about it now. The clinic has signed an agreement with CenturyLink to run fiber from the street over here to tunnel fiber up to their building. It should be operational by August 1st. What's that?
I didn't know.
Yeah, this is just recent. This is they signed the agreement 2 weeks ago. So they have, so they're going to be getting 200 megabytes a second through regular fiber, and so ours is just an interim support while they do this changeover.
So,
Getting to
in
the
the
new
sake of
building.
community working together, the town of Westcliff, I ran a CCOM test last night on their internet service at 1.9. I mean, abysmal. Is it possible, if Westcliff chose to pay for and buy the equipment, is it possible to beam over to them, would it be beamed over to the clinic? And if it is, would it adversely affect the county? I'm just trying to say, as a
You talking about
community-wide
the town
effort
hall
to try and
thing?
help the town hall, if that's a possibility.
You know, it is definitely a possibility. It would put a strain on us in general, and me in particular, to make certain that the equipment is maintained properly. If they're getting 1.4, they're probably paying $30 a month.
I know that.
If they were to bump up their, we ran on it. We ran on CCOM for a good more than a year at 40 megabytes a second, between 40 and 35 megabytes a second, and it would cost us $150 a month. So if they wanted to jump up with
Mine's
CCOM,
back
they
there, I
could.
took it back.
They could actually do that.
Okay, so probably their choice not to move up,
Right.
as opposed, okay, I have no issue there
And
whatsoever.
and also there is fiber available in Main Street.
Okay.
Yeah, so if they wanted to do that.
Okay, they have choices, that's all I care
Okay.
about. I didn't know if they had a choice or not,
And I will do that if that's what you would like me to do, or if you feel that that's necessary.
No, they
It's-
could decide whether they want it or
Right now,
not.
I
If it's
don't know.
available, that's great.
Yeah,
I was
put right over
concerned
the
it wasn't
top.
available, this might be an option for them, but no, that's fine, I'm good.
I
Thank you for
understand.
that answer.
Okay.
So the question I have along that line is,
Uh-huh.
since our public health nurse is moving out of the clinic and
Mhm.
going up the street, can you beam one over to her?
Yes, I can.
We were talking about a pretty good pole out there.
I've got the equipment to do that. I did a site survey from the corner of that building to I can see the top 30 feet of the tower here in our area. So I could beam, and it's only approximately 3/4 of a mile. They have a nominally 9-mile range, optimally 3-mile range. So we can do a beam over there to give them high speed.
And you also beam toward Horn Road.
I can see town from my house.
Right? It's, there are, it's a pretty nice, there are limitations, and like every one that I set up is another piece of equipment that I have to maintain, so, but it's okay, I can.
So since she's moving out and
Mhm.
the clinic isn't gonna be using anything soon, you ought to have some free space and a lot of equipment to handle.
I do have the equipment. Would I take that equipment out? That was my question for you all. When they leave, would I take that equipment out and turn off the
I think you'd wait
connection to
until
the
they got
clinic?
their connection.
I would think so. That's was my
I
idea.
didn't hear what the comment was.
When she leaves, the clinic's, he's providing service to the clinic. I would think we would still let that be until they get their fiber optic line. And we have an option to discuss.
Yeah, that's where I would go. I would say
Be good stewards here.
nothing that's gonna interfere with the work at the clinic.
Right.
If at some point they don't need us anymore, then I would say let's take our.
Right.
That should be in August 1st. They should be operational with that.
And then we would free up a bunch of our bandwidth.
Yeah, exactly.
I agree with Cleve. Yeah, let's leave it in place until
Okay.
they no longer need it.
All right. We'll do.
Certainly have an opinion about that. I personally, as commissioner, didn't have an issue with sharing that signal when public health was over there. Public health is not over there.
Right.
I would think if they are gracious enough to let us out of the 2 months of the lease, then I would be all on board with just leaving it. I was gonna ask you, could you share the timing with their fiber feed over there? Could you share that timing with us? And I think we need to know that. But if they're not willing to do that, if they just dig their heels in the ground and say, no, we're gonna hold you to this contract, and if you want out, it's $1,000 a month or whatever, then I think we need to take another look at the fact that we're shooting free broadband service, 10 times more than they had before public health got their feed.
Respectfully, I disagree. I think one thing has nothing to do with the other. I don't wanna play a game of, well, you're being not nice to me, I'm gonna be not nice to you. I don't think that's appropriate. I think what's appropriate is if they need the broadband or the high-speed internet to conduct business and we have it available, it's already there, it's not costing us anything extra, I think it'd be inappropriate for us to take it out regardless of what happens with the lease. I'm in agreement. I reread the email that we got that Clint mentioned yesterday, that when they said 3 months, I believe they really felt 3 months is what it would take us to move as opposed to trying to hold us to it. I think they're above trying to be, like we're trying to be now, above pettiness. I think I would be amazed if they come back and say, we're holding you to the lease. So that's just my opinion. I don't wanna interfere with their operations. People are sick, they need this, they need to get scans to doctors in Pueblo and all over the world. That's the last thing I wanna do is interfere with that business.
So they're gonna
That's just my
transition
opinion.
in 3 months
To broadband, yes. Well, to the fiber. To the fiber connection.
Yeah, I just wanna work collaboratively, no
And
question.
That's my feeling.
Together.
And I agree. I think if they tried to hold it, we could say to them, look, we're being good stewards, how about you being one too?
Right.
These are good people, this is not gonna be an issue, I know that. This would be foolish for that to, it's not gonna happen, it's just.
Well, we all work together.
That's
I
the
mean,
point,
we have
exactly.
we have meetings every month over there.
Exactly.
We all work together, so.
So back to the public health nurse, then you can mount that antenna on the building up there.
Yep.
But I think when they say they no longer need us, then we could take our course. That's my personal opinion, and however you guys want to do it.
I certainly think we respond accordingly when that situation comes. No longer need us, might be a year from now, so I don't know, who knows, I'm just saying.
Let's see.
I agree with
Well,
the context of what.
with
they said.
CenturyLink.
We need to work together.
You never know, do you?
Well, and that's right, and you know, we can always revisit this, but the game plan is a few months. And, I mean, we literally could be talking life and death. I mean, if they need to get a scan over to a specialist in somewhere who can respond back to them quickly, I certainly don't wanna be the one out of spite to do something, that just doesn't make sense to me.
I understand what you're saying. Anything else?
How's the replacement going?
Computer replacement's going well. JD's goes in tomorrow or Friday. ACS is going through some major changeovers, so things are a little bit delayed there. Yes, ACS is, did they talk about that already? So ACS is moving from Syracuse, New York. I won't be saying Syracuse anymore, I'll be saying Fort Worth, Texas. ACS is moving, and they are starting on Memorial Day weekend at 2:30 in the afternoon. They're shutting down their servers and transferring all of their databases over to Fort Worth, Texas, coming back online Tuesday morning for regular business.
How will that affect us?
Hopefully it doesn't.
So these replacement cameras for the county building, you got?
Well, that was what
Please.
those are things that I'm gonna be, talking about in budget time, either grounds and maintenance or mine, because, the cameras are really starting to, I mean, they're significantly old.
So you haven't got it budgeted?
No, I don't have it
It's just
budgeted yet.
as a wish list.
I'm putting that into, just planting a seed right now, to let you know, we'll be talking about that soon.
Are those some of the court security, originally court security funded cameras?
Yeah.
So in the grant application that starts July 1st, we applied for funding to replace 4 cameras.
Oh, really? Okay.
Well, I wanna say 4, but it's also to add 2 additional cameras, so I'm sorry, it's 6 cameras total, add 2, replace 4.
Oh, okay.
How many are
Just so
there?
you're aware, so.
Oh, that's great.
If that's approved, now I sat on the Court Security Commission, probably won't happen because of some funding struggles with the state.
I see.
So, but if it does happen, I'll let you know, and then we can use that for some of those cameras for.
Okay,
How many
wonderful, thank
cameras
you.
are there, Brian?
Well, we've got a total of 19.
Yeah, there's a bunch.
Yeah, I think we've got 19 cameras. Regarding court security, there's about 6.
Any other questions here?
They're all pretty old.
If I could just change the subject quickly, Jackie Hobby had asked us about a new laptop, she was having problems with hers, has that been resolved? Is she
I
still-
fixed her laptop.
Oh, great.
I was able to fix that one.
Wonderful, thank you.
Operator error?
So we could take.
No, there was actually something, looked like it kind of been dropped, some things needed to be put back inside, so.
He's out climbing over dirt piles
Well,
with it.
So we
so
could
no,
take,
it's good to go.
could take the price of a new computer and apply that to a bonus. I suppose. But if you don't need it, I mean, I don't wanna put you in another tax bracket.
No, that's okay. I had to buy her a new computer anyway, so a desktop a little bit ago, so it's all.
Okay. Anything else, sir?
No, I believe that's it.
All right, thank you,
Okay.
appreciate
Really,
it.
really
For
impressed
coming
with
in.
the job we did.
Oh, well, thank you,
Yeah.
sir. I really
Oh, you're
appreciate
welcome.
that.
Thank you.
Thank you all.
A lot of unseen
Be
hours.
careful, that's the lawyer's hand.
He got my iPad working again the other day, so
Oh,
very
glad.
appreciative.
Take
Thank
care.
you, sir, appreciate it.
Take care, all.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah.
He's a good guy.
No, it's, oh, yeah. Your aim's not
This is
right.
him.
No,
No,
is it.
this is him.
No. She's on vacation, but y'all
Oh,
have
that's
her
right. Yeah.
report.
Okay. Thank you.
Mhm.
O-E-M,
No.
but this is M with your thumb across. So
Yeah.
my thumb don't cross very well.
This. O.
M.
All that arthritis.
M?
O E N.
Oh, M's
N.
here.
there, sorry.
Thumb out.
Does everybody know this?
She had
Oh,
hers.
is it? I thought it was like this.
Thumb out or
N
in?
and M.
Oh, it is,
Yeah.
sorry,
Thumbs
I
in.
did it wrong.
So I read this morning on the news that
Outside?
at one of the baseball stadiums, a fan is gonna be banned for life because
Yeah.
behind a reporter, he was giving
Oh,
some
Gang
white
sign?
power symbol or something,
I
and
thought
the
he was
baseball
getting signals.
field is gonna ban him. for
Where's
life.
that rabbit?
Yeah, no
Talk
kidding.
Talk about going down a trail.
So, be careful when you OEM, you know, the Bloods or the Crips may
Right.
take that wrong and you're in trouble.
I'm amazed that all of you even know that.
I know it
She
is.
speaks sign language.
Yeah.
I only
That
know
comes
one
in
sign
handy.
language,
American
but I
Sign
don't know.
Language Convention was at the zoo on Saturday.
Really?
Sunday
Or do
when
you
we were
feel
there.
it?
I love that so
My
much.
daughter is bilingual in sign
Silent
language, it's her
speech.
second
You never heard
language.
that?
Really?
Yes.
Really good at it.
She teaches it, she's fabulous.
Is that right? That's
I
neat.
speak
thought
my
I know
power.
where it is.
Yeah.
A long time ago,
I'm not going
it's
there.
like any
I get
language,
it.
if you don't use it, you lose
You
it.
lose it.
That's a rabbit hole the size of
Yeah.
the Grand Canyon, I swear.
At the risk of being rude, any comments, questions,
No, I thought
concerns
it was-
about EM
No.
I thought it was
report?
pretty straightforward.
There's more on there than I digested, I'm not gonna lie to you about that,
Yeah.
but,
I just get so upset, and it's me, with NREMR,
National
DHSE.
Emergency.
I understand, you may know it, but I don't want to read it going, EMT, you know, when I do know. But I mean, there's so many acronyms here that it just drives me up the wall.
The first time it's mentioned, courtesy is you write it out and then you put the initials and then you can refer back to it, but you should always do that.
And I'm not, I don't mean this as a negative, it's just difficult for me when I see all these, I don't know,
Well, it doesn't mean anything.
I don't know what we're talking about.
CODHSEM is
And she says them all, they, so
RFMCOEM.
fast, and she just goes.
That's crazy.
The current SOW is complete. Anybody know what that is?
scope of work.
Statement of work.
Thank you,
Statement of work.
thank you.
Could be scope.
Okay,
TOSC. Okay, whatever, this is my
I
comment.
don't believe we need a motion to accept the report, although we can if you so desire.
No, we haven't accepted any others, I don't know why we
It's
accepted
okay,
this one.
Mike.
Any other questions, comments, Leah? Okay, we'll move on. Next item of business. Unfinished items, gentlemen,
Yes, sir.
or do I, Commissioner Ken?
No.
We'll move on to new business. Are you okay, sir? Should we bump? Okay. I move we accept the letter of resignation from Elizabeth French as our, current planning and zoning clerk.
I'll reluctantly second that.
Moved and seconded to accept resignation of Elizabeth French. Discussion.
I would just like to say that she's been with us for many, many, many years.
Yeah.
And, I would just like to say I really appreciate the service that she has given to the county. And I think she, is going to retire with her husband who recently retired, and I wish them the very best in the future.
Yeah, that'd be good.
Yeah, I think she's been a valuable asset over there, certainly has a ton of knowledge. The idea here would be that she's gonna, block out some time to train a new person, which is why we'd like to move forward and get a hire ready so that we can have some training. Did you get my email this morning?
Yep. Fire me.
Oh, good. Yeah, not happening. Yeah. So I agree with you. I certainly, the value of her work and assistance, and I know she will be missed over there. She's done a good job, not only there in the community as well, her work with Rebecca French, and, that may continue as well as the theater stuff, but, done a good job. Further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, nays? We have accepted resignation of Elizabeth French. Thank you.
She said she'll be right over.
Okay, that's fine. I would beg one more
Indulgence.
what's excusation?
You wanna bail out again?
Yes, if you don't mind. We'll stand in recess for a couple minutes. What would be the word about being excused?
There's no
Excuse,
excuse
I
for
guess.
this.
I guess sometimes you just say it, huh? Be
Did
excused.
y'all just recess?
No, yeah, it's Tom's got it.
Is it that bad that the sheriff's department has to do?
Yeah.
Okay.
We knew you were
They
up.
came in to escort you out.
Oh, good.
Oh my gosh.
They better bring more.
Meeting will
He's
come
not
back.
on here.
Pardon?
Jackie's not on here.
Meeting will come back to order, she's a guest.
Oh, okay.
Yes.
Because I'm
See?
leaving if you are.
Next
I-
item of business under the new business is consideration of a salary for the planning and zoning clerk position. Thank you for being here, ladies.
We're being hobbyized.
It feels awkward for me to do this in an open meeting initially. Certainly I know that the discussion needs to be public. Just not used to operating in that realm. So the big question is, how much money are we gonna offer the new planning and zoning clerk?
Before we answer that, Mr. Commissioner.
Yes, sir.
Mr. Chairman, if you don't mind. I'm wondering if it's really appropriate to have this in an open meeting, and here's why. To me, it's like a contract negotiation. We're going to be hiring a new person at some point. If we give out the parameters, I think we're letting our hand up. I think I think this would lend, in my opinion, and I'll certainly defer to council, this would lend itself to negotiations, contract negotiations, even though the position is not a contract position, but it would give someone an undue advantage of knowing this information. I suggest that this be done in an executive session for that reason.
Okay.
And that is my,
Let me
this is
make
an
a comment
opinion.
on that, like,
Yes.
so we can all
Sure.
have an input. I agree, but to me, right now it's public information what the wages are for everybody. But what's not understood is a window for each of the positions. There should be in most places, a salary, low and high, here's the bracket, and then the actual negotiation is where you bring a new person in. And usually you have scales, you know, where you know you're starting at the bottom, here's what the window is more or less. If we were gonna get specific with an advertisement, you would always wanna post the window, but you don't necessarily have to post the exact wage either until you have that executive session where we're gonna figure out what we're gonna do. But to me, it's public knowledge, right?
Yeah, I'm not sure it's actually an executive session, a legal executive session. It's not a negotiation. We're not gonna negotiating with anybody. We're gonna set a salary.
Just gonna set a range.
Well, you
So-
can go into executive session if you feel that disclosing information in a public meeting would give someone else an unfair advantage and it's for contracts really, and this may not lend itself, I'm just a little concerned about that, but
Yeah.
if it's not an issue, I'll unconcern myself, we'll move
I
forward.
don't think the window
Well-
thing is personally.
Fine.
Yeah, obviously, I mean, I share the same concern basically, but for different reasons. I mean, I don't think we're gonna put anybody at an unfair advantage. If we just right now said it's gonna be X number of dollars, I don't see that putting anybody at a disadvantage. We have to advertise. I don't particularly care for the old salary commensurate upon experience thing. If that's what we choose to do, that's fine, but, I just don't see how we would put somebody at a disadvantage in this situation because if it's not a negotiated contract. Ms. Jackie, you had a comment?
Yeah, I would like it to be an executive session because I think that, for one thing, I will be talking about a personnel issue also.
Well, not during that,
Not
you wouldn't.
during that.
No, okay.
Yeah.
And then also, your turn, try something different.
My
Again,
only
yeah.
concern is that as we're discussing this, we may be comparing employees, and with the smallest staffers that we have, it would be that.
I
So,
don't-
and not an executive session, or just a workshop where we could muddle through and look through paperwork and pick.
To me, gee whiz, take personalities and people out of it. You got a position that's worth text.
Right.
To me.
I agree. I don't know that, I certainly wouldn't start comparing it with other employees. We have a position to fill. Now, if there was 4 of those clerk positions in the planning and zoning, I can see that. Doesn't matter to me what anybody else is getting paid in this county when it comes to assigning the salary. And Commissioner Prince hit it right on the head. We are paying for our own sins. If we had a salary schedule and a range from A to B for every position in this county, we wouldn't be having this discussion. We would start them out at probably the beginning salary or consider their experience.
If they got experience, they come in at a step higher.
Yes, ma'am.
And absolutely true, but I don't ever recall when a job opened that we've had a meeting where we discussed that salary.
Right.
And we've hired we've hired quite a few people.
Right.
We've had them all in workshops. That was my only concern.
Yeah. No, and I understand that completely. That's why we just didn't bail off into doing something. I would defer to council, obviously, on the legal parameters of this thing. If it's not here, and you say, well, put it in a workshop, that's not happening. So the only way that's gonna happen is you go behind closed doors in somebody's office and you decide, or we decide as a county commissioners what we're gonna offer for a salary, either in a public meeting or in executive session.
Can I make a
Yes,
comment?
ma'am.
I know that we never, going back to our workshop that we had for salaries and stuff,
Mhm.
that we never finished.
Right,
Don't we have to start somewhere?
yes.
So why can't Jackie come up with a
Here's our
range,
right.
here's your low, here's your high, and be the first person that starts that.
There are other people that have it in place, but,
Well, there are.
But even if we didn't,
hires and has her own.
even if we
And it
didn't, that's a
wasn't-
good idea, that should be done anyway, that position's worth X,
Yeah.
period.
And if somebody comes
Range.
in with no experience, you start
Right.
them low, but if they come in and they've got a little bit more experience, wouldn't you wanna start them a little bit higher
and that's why
than?
I think we
That's
have a
what it-
range in there that you can
Right.
plug them
And
in,
in that
but
range,
we,
you could negotiate with.
countywide, we do not have that in place that I'm
No.
aware of, and it's just inexcusable.
Politics, I
We're gonna
think.
struggle with this
We need to-
every time we have a,
So, but we're not gonna solve that here in this one, we wanna solve the now, and so I don't know why we can't start with a range, get a recommendation, and let's get it advertised.
Me again.
okay, well, Counselor, are we,
Right now, I haven't heard anything that would make this fit into an executive session.
thank you.
Okay, so, you have a lot of employees, not a lot, that are underneath your umbrella. I am one. But the employee that, let's just use Road and Bridge or
Now, let's
Laura.
talk about planning and zoning.
Hang on, my point is, when Gary or Laura hires someone, do they have, I know Gary does, he has a wage scale, right? An operator scale.
Right.
Does he come in and say, I hired this guy, or do you guys, what I'm getting at is, what is the policy
We
here?
don't have one.
So Gary can hire and fire,
He does.
Laura can hire and fire,
Correct.
but you choose me to do this process with.
Good point. Because we do not have a process, we had no idea how to move forward. If we had a process that spelled that out, we wouldn't probably be sitting here, but we don't.
Okay, so the only thing that I would think that would be of a concern, now, I'm just talking off, don't hold me responsible, would be the wage. And if I have the wage to cover my new employee, cause you have to guess on the health benefits, why am I any different? Why can't I just take the applicants, pick out 3 or 4, interview them and say, this is the one I choose?
Okay, she brings up a good point, because she was talking, with use Gary again, because that, without a policy, that is a policy. We actually have the leadership of that organization tell us what it is, and we either agree or we don't agree with who they hire, how, the process is.
Well,
I think that would be a fair, she's bringing up a fair point. If she knows what the wage is, and that's a public as well, why aren't you recommending that to us in the first place?
Because we don't have a policy to dictate that, that's part of the
This
problem.
would be the first time that the commissioners hired the zoning secretary. Lane
Yeah, I don't
hired his
see why
own,
not.
and so did Peggy.
That's the point.
I completely concur. I can't believe I'm saying this with Jackie. I meant that as a joke.
And you're on record.
I meant that as a joke.
I'm just saying
I
you
think
would
you're
use-
right, we don't ask Laura Lockhart to have us do the hiring for her. We don't have, and I recognize that these are elected officials, we don't have, you don't come to us and say, this is, I wanna hire. I think we, as a tribunal, need to determine what is this position, what range is it, and say, Jackie, go for it. When you have the person you are most comfortable with, present it to us, and I think we could say yes or no, and I think that's appropriate. I'm not even sure we even have to say yes or no. I think we could say, introduce us to your
It's just a matter of the salary. If it
introduce
blows
us
out
to
of their
your
budget,
employee
it's a
when
different
you
story.
hire that person.
To my knowledge, we don't have any
Right.
current non-elected supervisors that would come to us for anything. Certainly Road and Bridge does not. They just hired a part-time employee. We had nothing to say about that.
Right.
The only way I knew about that was because I asked an employee of the Road and Bridge. If I guess we wanna know, then when they come to give a staff
Decide
report,
to
we
do
can
that.
ask.
Right.
But, I understand exactly what you're saying. I hope you don't think we're singling you out to say, okay, we're not gonna let planning and zoning hire on the, I have no idea. Without a written policy, we're walking around like a bunch of goomballs, and I don't care for it.
Okay, and that's my point. My point is that until you have a written policy, you can't change the rules.
Well, there are no rules, so we can do whatever we want.
We have a precedent.
That's the problem.
Well, Tom, you're right, literally, but in practice, precedence has set, the leaders of these organizations have been doing it, and all we've been doing is setting a budget for that organization to operate in. They haven't blown that budget, so legally everything's legit. So, that in itself is a policy, whether we have it written down or not, that's the way it's been,
I think we do have a policy.
which is.
As I indicated to Ms. Jackie, just put it in front of me and I'll be quiet until you can show it to me in writing. I disagree, respectfully. We need to have a policy. Oh, I wanna jump up and down and scream that we need to have a policy. It is a weakness in this county organization that we don't have. So with that, I certainly would defer back to Ms. Jackie as a supervisor to hire and release her own personnel, just like we would allow Rusty, Gary, I'm trying to think of the non-elected officials, because they don't
Rusty,
enter into this
Gary.
conversation.
That's right.
Are there any others?
So Rusty, Gary, Laura,
Cindy,
Cindy, yeah, 'cause
Cindy,
Cindy
yeah.
hired Mer, yeah, I mean, all of them, this would be the only.
Never was ever bugged us about who they're hiring.
Only the ones that you are the direct supervisors
Right.
over, and then what they do.
So your point's very well taken. Don't think I'm arguing one bit, I'm just so frustrated.
Now, if it was my position, because I work
Different
directly,
story.
that's a
Different
whole
story.
different story.
Right, exactly.
To us.
Exactly.
It's a different animal.
Supervisor positions would report to us, and we'd be having a different conversation.
right.
So, what's the group's pleasure?
My suggestion would be, let's talk about a salary range for that position, so we're giving direction to our supervisor, planning and zoning, to know what parameters she's working in, and say, go take care of business, and let us introduce this to your new employee when you
I
hire.
don't know.
well, is there a specific amount budgeted now for your assistant?
Sure.
Well,
You
Oh,
have a
Elizabeth's
budget in your
remaining.
office,
Yeah,
yeah.
you're operating within your budget, period. I don't know that we need to do that,
Well,
unless
do
we
we
can
have
ask.
salary ranges for other positions?
some we do, some we don't.
Okay,
Some
well,
are
They are operating in their
the
budget.
issue here is, it's kinda like, Mr. Rice over at Road and Bridge.
Right.
He's the highest paid employee, I think, one of the highest paid, I think there's someone who's paid higher. But it's because of his longevity.
Mhm.
If he
Well, I'm gonna call
decide-
point of order, sir, respectfully. I just am not sure, Commissioner or Counselor, I'll defer to you. We're getting off into personnel issues. I defer.
and
My feeling is that it's in her budget, I mean, there's an amount that's figured in. She's not gonna hire a new employee at that maximum amount,
She's
I
not
leave
gonna
it to
go
her
above her
discretion
budget.
to what she feels.
In
She
respect to Commissioner Prince, my point of order was just, should we be talking about,
Other
longevity,
a name,
pay, yes.
you are
that's-
absolutely,
okay.
I have
Yeah.
no issue.
All right, thank
I
you.
used a name and I should not have.
Okay.
My point was, long-term employees have evolved to a much higher salary than what a new person would take. So,
You know,
I'm not sure that,
You're right.
I think that needs to be taken into consideration with a new hire.
and our only input so far has been, in budget discussions, salaries at large. And we were dealing with percentages and et cetera, et cetera. So I think it's legit for her to,
And I had a great salary thing when we had our salary
Right.
meetings, but it just went,
Yeah, and Jackie was actually one of
Yeah,
the two or
yes, she
three
did.
that did have salary ranges. I don't remember what those were. Do you have a salary beginning, an initial and a final salary range right now?
yes,
That you could
working
quote to
with,
us.
I'll work with Donna on the budget, what I have left in my budget.
Right.
Plus my payout, and then Donna has the figures whether they take one-time
That's a good
insurance or
discussion.
family
Right.
insurance.
If I asked you right now what a beginning salary would be for your planning and zoning clerk, could you answer that?
No, but Donna probably could help me. I was thinking to start out with what JD had done.
I'm just asking. So, again, back to Ms. Kelly's point. If this isn't a very pointed indicator that we are circling the drain in this area, I don't know what would be. So, back to that whole salary thing, I know we spent several hours dealing with it as typical,
Twice.
and nothing ever happened from it, so. I would like at some point the commissioners to at least recommend to our supervisor positions that they have a lower and an upper salary range for every job description within their department.
Maybe that's a good discussion to have when we start that process.
It's not rocket science. Yes, ma'am.
I'd hate to see you guys micromanage her.
No, I agree.
You know, I mean, she doesn't have to come to you and say, I need copy paper.
Right.
You know, I mean, she's got a budget. And we all know that Elizabeth's been here forever, so she's probably way at the high end, but,
It's up to her.
it's up to Jackie, you know, if she has issues, then she could come to you and go, I have an issue. It's just from the public
So,
perspective.
way ahead on here is what, we wanna go forward with this position.
Well, I think if the three of us are in consent, then we just give it to Jackie and let her run with it.
Yeah.
Ms. Hobby,
You
you satisfied with that approach?
Yes, I am.
come back and you guys get together, you're gonna know what you're gonna have left, your payout, what you got now, and what you're gonna do next year, roughly. Pick a salary, let us know.
Well, yeah, that would be a courtesy. There's nothing to say you even have to let us know.
Right.
No, because you don't have a policy.
That's right.
Exactly right.
And I'm finding that I don't have to do anything because we don't have a policy.
Just a question out of curiosity, is it, and Donna may answer this better than, is it an advantage to the county to have, an employee such as the zoning and planning, secretary, is that correct? Clerk, I'm sorry, on a salary instead of hourly? Is there an advantage to the county? I don't understand why they would be a salaried employee, because then all kinds of other complications come into a salaried employee versus an hourly employee.
Can you name some complications?
Sure, like now you start talking about exempt status, so if they're if they're a quote unquote salaried employee, then now you
They are exempt.
Now you have to determine, is that salary plus overtime?
Right.
So if you had something come up and your employee had to work an hour late, then you would have to pay them overtime if they're hourly, but if they're salary, then you have some wiggle room in there, and so I'm just curious. I'm not trying to bring,
Right.
I mean, it's not,
No, again, I just think it's a weakness in the county organization that we can't even define what a salary employee is.
hourly
Really?
employees or hourly employees. They're not
Hourly
salary.
or salary, one of the two, and exempt and non-exempt to me line up perfectly with those two.
I've in my experience, I've never seen so many salaried employees in an organization like this. I mean, they're typically hourly.
Yeah. And I had somebody ask
You
me,
get paid
who
for the
decides
work you
whether
do.
they're salary or
The
hourly?
hours you work, I mean.
Supervisors, board of commissioners, I would assume the
Yeah, we
commissioners
could,
would,
Donna,
but,
yeah, sure.
Is the 35-hour week in the budget? That if we went to time clock, everyone would lose an hour of their pay? I mean, because we actually work 35 hours a week.
well, they could be hourly and be paid for a 40-hour
We
week.
paid more per hour.
But then you would but then if I'm paying on the lunch hour and I'm paying them for 40, then the overtime would kick in at 4:01.
Well, you can still adjust that.
But it shouldn't,
So-
right?
Well,
Should
You
never,
can still set when
and
they
the
come
bottom
in.
So what
line
if
is
it
I have
does?
no
It
time
doesn't.
clocks.
right, if
So that's where the whole thing comes in.
if Jackie's clerk worked 42 hours and she was hourly, she'd get 2 hours overtime. But overtime has to be approved prior to by the supervisor, so Jackie would control whether or not her employee's gonna get overtime, according to the personnel manual. So I don't know, I'm not arguing, please don't think I am, I've had the same question asked to me, how do you determine if a position is salary or hourly? I said, I have no idea. And I'd like for somebody to tell me, this is how we decide that.
Do you have any hourly employees?
Oh, yeah, we got a lot of hourly.
All my employees are hourly.
Oh, okay.
There's no reason why you couldn't make it hourly, Jackie, that's
Well, yeah, I don't know.
good.
No.
There's no magic to it.
About 50 people out of 83 are
Oh,
hourly.
wow.
And I certainly am not researched enough to know the advantage and disadvantage of this specific example of your clerk. I guess that would be, again, as a supervisor, I suppose that would be up to you. I would think out of nothing else, courtesy, you might come to the commission and say, hey, I'm thinking about making this position salary or hourly, but yeah, I mean, I just think supervisors need to be treated as supervisors.
Yeah.
On both sides of the coin. Feet held to the fire and also allowed the trust and the wherewithal to do their job.
My whole thing is, you gotta have some policies so that everyone has a starting point and an ending point. But then you're back to the point of, you cannot compare apples and oranges.
You wouldn't have to, because you're asking each supervisor to do their own. If we did it for everybody, then we would be, I think. But if each supervisor is given that opportunity, I don't see the apples and oranges thing there. Outside of the supervisor's category, it's nobody's business. JD not gonna start telling you, hey, you got this all messed up. That would never happen.
No, but I agree, that's the best way to do, and we get going on a roll and then we stop.
Exactly. Life gets in the way, work gets in the way, so.
Or an election happens.
Or an election happens. And how many elections, and there's never been, that I've seen a document of anything finally being decided.
But
These
it's up
kind
to
of
us.
things could
We can
roll
do
through
that.
one election to the next, I mean. Somebody could change the policy, but at least there'd be a policy to change.
Like I said a minute ago, you're absolutely right. You should dictate how you do this. And I hate to talk about areas of responsibility, but I wouldn't mind sitting in your interviews with you. Not that, just to bounce it off. The nice thing is, if you made a terrible choice, which could be, I mean, someone could interview wonderfully and turn out to be not a good person, you know, it doesn't just fall back on you. So, I mean, we've done that when we hired the janitor and the cleaning, young lady. I mean, you know, we've sat in on the interview, I have, so as part of,
And I would,
and I'm in both areas, I'm in
and I'll think about
human
that.
resources and planning and zoning. I wouldn't mind sitting there just to listen.
See, the problem is that zoning is a strange bird. Unless you know anything about zoning, what questions would you ask? You know, cause it's a whole different set of documents, and I know that you guys have been involved in the planning commission and stuff, but, you know, there's some questions that, you know, need to be asked, and if you're going to,
Well,
I just want a policy.
you're the boss, and you know what it is.
How do you make coffee? 4 scoops or 5?
I know we're kinda rabbit trailing here a little. I wonder then too if, and I'm thinking about the road and bridge, for example. I guess it's incumbent upon the commissioners then to say, have you hired, have you fired, give us a report on your personnel. I mean, every month, because other than that, there's not that channel of communication expected or policy, either one. But, I mean, can you imagine, it's different because she's in this building, but could you imagine Jackie losing an employee and hiring an employee and we didn't know anything about it? That would be pretty weird in my book because we're in the same building. But you look at Rusty,
But, you know,
Bridge.
that's why we have staff reports.
Could happen.
That's when you would go through that
Right.
conversation. We do that. We don't get into Gary's hair down there and wanting to interview as operators for a grader.
Yeah.
Those positions are set, they know what the scale is, et cetera.
Yeah. So with that being said, I wonder if we shouldn't consider asking Jackie to give us a monthly staff report as well. Just like
There's
our
no
other,
reason why we can't.
just like our other supervisors do. I think you're the only one that does it,
She
actually.
used to.
Actually, she comes in all the time. We get a report from her about every
We
week.
used to get a monthly report from planning.
That's the only reason I'm still here, just I look forward to when Jackie comes in.
Dang, you've been missing every.
But it could be a staff, not a detail thing, you know, it's a.
Do you remember when, the last report I did in Wetmore?
Mhm.
Yeah.
he got irritated.
Yes, I remember that.
Counselor, do you feel like we need a motion to give her some direction here, or not?
I don't think so.
Just the consent?
Yeah, this isn't really
This isn't
a decision on anything that affects her. It's just, you know, procedural.
Procedures.
What do you think, Ms. Dawn?
No, it would be odd for you to hire another person's secretary, not the other way around.
That's
So
right.
I think this is just going with the way it's always been.
Yeah. No, I think we're on solid ground.
Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, ma'am, ladies.
I've
both
been
of you.
waiting for
Thank you
the-
for coming in. Next item of
Final
business.
opera here with the sheriff.
Next item of business is discussion of the evacuation plan for our courthouse. I asked, invited Mr. Byerly to come
Didn't want
over
to shake
and.
down his hand for stopping in.
No, or deputies. So, Mr. Byerly, would you like to come and have a conversation with us?
Certainly, I don't think I'm the
Well-
point on this one, I mean, quite frankly, I think
And
the
I'm not
fire chief
saying
is
you
the
are.
one that would be the,
I thought he was gonna.
fires the evacuation folks, not the
Well,
police, but.
and I thought this conversation kind of originated with the insurance person,
It did,
and that you had that conversation. That's the only reason I asked.
I get you,
Okay.
yeah. I'm
No,
sure.
I think if it's an active shooting drill, fire has nothing to do with that initially, probably. So I didn't
Okay.
think of it as a fire, sheriff,
Gotcha.
whatever.
Okay.
I just know that you had a conversation with the guy.
Yeah,
That's
so Mike has to be an integral part of this conversation,
Right.
obviously, because he's here all the time. And actually, this conversation did not originate with the insurance, with John Wagner. Actually, this conversation, from my perspective, originated within the first 3 months that I took office, when Mike and I sat down and he's like, look, we don't have an evacuation plan in the county building at all. And I said, what do you mean? And then I was like, speechless.
It's been a topic for the two previous boards, and it's just been that a topic.
And it's, a
Well,
lot of it's been
okay.
that the board just hasn't
Who wanna
drilled it.
lead it?
Listen, we have to, I mean, if, God forbid, we were to have anything from
One of
from
the,
a gas leak to a fire to a workplace
Building
violence,
crime.
active shooter, I mean,
one of the downfalls that we have in this building is there's no warning system. There's no fire alarm, there's no nothing, so there's not a logical way to notify all the people in the building, whether they work here or they're just visiting, that there's a danger and they need to get out of the building.
Other than a smoke detector.
Yeah, and, you know, we change the batteries twice a year, but, there's nothing, so it's the old fashioned way, run through the building, yell on fire.
Right,
When there's an emergency, you don't really have time to do that.
right.
the old phone system had the intercom that could be used, but the new one, in my understanding, is it doesn't.
I don't think there's an intercom
Okay.
for all
So,
the phones, so.
can we back up a little bit? If we had an evacuation plan,
Mhm.
what are the components of that? Obviously, maps in every room to show the
Well,
evacuation
and we do
routes.
have those,
Okay,
we have those.
and then some kind of a warning system.
And the discussion needs to, in my opinion, and it's something that we all need to brainstorm, and that's why the fire department's pretty critical, because we have to look at the circumstances we would have to evacuate this building. Fire would naturally be one, a bomb threat would naturally be one, an active shooter is a different approach. So that's why the fire is important, you know, but you don't wanna make it too complicated.
Right.
You gotta evacuate the building. Two
Gotta
things
know
we wanna
how.
get is get everybody out, have accountability, and keep it as simple as you can. In the case of a fire, it just, to me, makes common sense if the employees could get in their cars and clear the parking lot. That's one less obstacle for the fire department. In the case of a bomb threat, you don't wanna go in there anything.
Right.
We have to determine a safe evacuation place to go to. We need to determine an accountability for, and that's probably where each department head be responsible for who's in their office. So, like, say if JD's evacuating upstairs and he's got customers in his office, he needs to be able to, even if he tells his people to get in your car and go home, we need to know that that happens so we can account for these people. and it's not that complicated, we just need to have the process. And I think one of the most critical things is an alarm system. I mean, the fire department hired a company and they went in and put in a alarm system down there, it's all wireless and I even, I think it was the previous board, I even had those people come here, evaluate the building
Right.
to give us a price.
We did have, we had a price estimate.
And
Where's the price estimate now, do you know?
they just dropped the ball and never
They,
came
the
back.
people never got
They came here and evaluated the building, and I may have their contact information, cause I don't remember now if that was through the board but it came up, and so we got to that step. But regardless of whatever happens with this building, it's a public building, there should, I mean, we're remiss not to have
Seems
some
like
type
that
of
would be
fire
the
alarm.
first step, you gotta have an alarm, and then you have
Right.
to come up with a process.
Right.
And then typically, how do you activate that alarm? Is there a person, is it
Well,
like our
look at
emergency
the
buttons
schools.
now, or?
They got fire alarms all over the building, and they're
Pull the
all
little
they're wireless.
Pull the lever and go.
And they talk to each other, I mean, they're not that complicated, so if one goes off, it triggers all the alarms, and so everybody has their evacuation plan for their room, every teacher knows how to get their kids out, where they're going.
Where they're gonna go, where they're gonna assemble. See, in my mind, and the reason I say it's critical we have a fire chief involved or his designee is, so you don't wanna make it too complicated. So essentially you have two plans, right? The one would be bomb scare, workplace violence, any of that, where you're not gonna have anybody get in a car, you're not gonna have anybody, it's gonna be by foot, and you're gonna go somewhere, a designated spot, or two. But then from the fire aspect, right, as a cop, I say, okay, yeah, if there's a fire, it'd probably be great to get those cars out of there. But the fire chief may disagree, and the reason is once fire gets on scene and they start to unravel hoses, you don't want cars moving around, because
Right.
a car cannot drive over a fire hose, and I've actually written people tickets for driving over fire hoses, trying to protect a fire scene while the firefighters are trying to do their job, and it ruins the hose. So he may go, look, if there's a fire, I don't want people driving cars around, because now it's chaos, and we can't maintain the scene, but we need his input on
I
that.
get that.
But ultimately, we want two plans, and that's it. If the fire alarm goes off,
Do this.
do this. If we have a
Emergency.
fill in the blank, yeah, a critical incident here, do this, and that's it. We don't want it, cause it's a stressful situation, you don't wanna be, well, okay, wait, I need to do,
Sheriff, is that something the fire department would do for the fire and your office would do for the critical incident?
I think we need to collaboratively get together and say, they would say, this is what we suggest, we would say, this is what we suggest, and then you guys, you gentlemen would be, this is what we're gonna do. You know what I mean? Now, that doesn't mean you have to mastermind it.
Right.
You can look and go, yeah, that makes sense.
Right.
And it ought to be inclusive of all the county buildings, in my view. Process.
Yeah, there
Ultimately,
should
building,
be
BSO,
something, I mean,
OEM.
there's more activity here in
I
this
know,
building.
but
The public.
but we need
Right.
a big picture.
Right,
Yeah, I don't think we probably need fire alarms in the airport building
no,
No.
at this point.
Or
Now,
the-
someday we might,
or the landfill.
or the landfill,
Right.
or the VSO building.
You know, but
Well,
as
BSO
much
is a
as,
different story, because you're gonna get a fire truck in here and things are gonna happen.
but I mean, it's as much as, let's say
Yeah,
that
no.
we have something in Kelly's in her office, sort of, not only is she concerned about her people that are in there, but then also the general public, to be able to tell them, hey, listen, you need to do this, that's
Right.
where we
Right
really
now,
start getting, it's
to
hard.
you.
We have enough liability with our own employees, but then also now you're talking to citizens.
So what I'm hearing is we probably need to do a workshop with fire and the sheriff's department
Court.
and the court, and anybody else who feels appropriate, let's get together. Excuse me.
Bless you.
Thank you. And, start working towards a plan. I think it's imperative. I would like to find out what a fire alarm system in this building would cost and figure out how we can afford to do it. I mean, this is a public building. We have to protect the citizens, and we need to work that out.
And to be
My
to
opinion.
be quite frank, so we start talking about fire alarm system and all that, I
really think that the fire department ought to be driving that.
That's
Not our, that's
No,
not
I
our
agree.
specialty.
That's why I
Yeah,
said
I
we
really
workshop
do.
with everybody
'Cause
involved.
They're gonna know the companies that do
Right.
that better than us. I mean, now Mike has done some work on that, and I certainly appreciate the work he can do, and he can be helpful, but
Is his alarm on, wireless down there? So he has all those
That's
contacts.
my understanding.
Yeah, so shoot him.
And I thought, you and I had this conversation a while back, and I thought you had said, and I'm not gonna quote you, but I thought we were talking around $17,000 to put.
No, that was what the rest button system that we put in the building was
Oh, okay.
around 14, a replacement for it, because it's now dated, and will after 3 more years, no longer even be serviced.
Right.
And that's around 17.
Okay.
I think the fire alarm system, best of my understanding, is gonna be closer to a $5,000 figure.
So if it was a fire alarm system, we use that for critical incident as well.
Yeah, it's some kind of warning
Yeah.
system. Everybody knows that they need to
Beep,
get out of the
beep,
building.
Beep, beep, you gotta go.
Yeah.
You don't need to know whether it's fire or
Suppose you
anything
want
else.
a shelter in place, I mean, isn't that an option, so you don't necessarily always want everybody to run out of the
Right.
building?
Right.
And that's the challenge, without having some type of, overhead intercom type system to know if that fire alarm goes, right? I mean, if you're upstairs or
Right.
you're in the restroom here and the fire alarm goes off,
You're gonna go.
you assume it's fire.
But
You don't know.
That's what I was getting at.
A
Yeah.
public address system or a, intercom is also wireless, could be, I mean, you could
Sure.
still do that.
I would think so.
Yeah, I think so.
Broadcast, whatever.
Now, I think court security, critical incident, and fire
Yeah,
would be
appropriate.
appropriate, the 3 entities to really sit down.
I would agree with that.
Yeah. Do you, as 2 of the 3, the process, reach out to those 3 entities? Hey, can you pick one of these 4 possible dates to have a workshop, meet with commissioners? Is that reasonable?
Sure.
More reasonable than just saying, we're having a workshop on this date, which we tried that this afternoon, and I'm not sure how that's gonna work out. So, do a little informal survey, say, which of these dates work best for you?
Sure.
That makes sense. Because if we don't put something on the calendar, we're not gonna get any traction.
Right.
It'll be right
Right.
where we're
And that's,
salary
and that's
and
why I
everything.
brought this up for
Yeah.
us to talk about it, so that we
Right.
can,
I appreciate
So is
that.
Kit coming to this one this afternoon,
Yes,
so you can, there.
yeah.
he is, but, again, maybe, out in the hallway or whatever, we could say, what do you guys think?
Yeah.
I just think we need to get moving. If it's a significant amount of money, then probably have to go through the budget cycle.
Right.
Right.
And deal with it next year, but
Right.
not August of next year, you know, I mean, we gotta have something or we're
I
gonna
think
get.
it's just proper to at least investigate.
Right.
Cause, I mean, by the time you get an estimate on what that, a cost estimate on what that would be, and if it's feasible and all those type of things, it's probably gonna be into the fall. And
Might
so,
lower our insurance cost.
well, you would hope it
Maybe,
would.
yeah.
I'm
Should
mortified that CTSI doesn't come in and go, wait a second, you guys have a building like this and you won't spend $8,000 to, I mean, I'm just pulling that number. I can't believe they aren't more
I'll bet we can get it quick.
demanding about that type of stuff.
Gentlemen, is one of us interested in taking the lead, at least to get a calendar put together and reach out? I will do that unless you prefer. I don't care, I just wanna share the responsibility.
You're welcome to, I'm fine. I think it's imperative that we do this.
I agree.
I feel very embarrassed as a commissioner not to have said, what is our emergency plan? I mean, why didn't I think of this before? I'm embarrassed. I should have been on top of this, I'm sorry.
I can help, doesn't matter.
Well, you assume when you have a building of this size that's already there.
But
I mean, you just
don't know
do.
if there was. I
Yeah.
mean, I should have
Alright.
said, what is our emergency plan? If someone said, we don't have one, I would've go, wait a minute, let's start working on one. I should have done that.
Well, and it's not the first thing everybody thinks about anyway. But
Yeah.
I know that little button's there.
It's like
I look at it every
infrastructure.
time I sit down and go, there's an incident, I'm gonna push that button. But that is not the same thing as upstairs where they may not have a button and there's a fire.
They do,
I mean, it just
but
didn't
still-
dawn on me.
Still, right, a fire.
Your point is so well taken,
we,
I
we
really.
need a system to
This is
notify
very
everybody in
important.
this building that, hey, something's going on. And then a procedure for what they should
The
do.
key is as long as we don't focus on what's about, as long as we're moving forward, that's the key at this
Exactly.
point. We just can't, we can't say, oh, it's never been done.
So,
We'll fix it.
Chairman, if you'd like to take the lead, I'm fine with that. I just wanna get it moving, I'm fine.
And I don't wanna freak you out, Mr. Chairman, but you can do a little survey monkey, and you can send it out to all the people involved with a schedule and say,
right.
click on the days you're available, and then look at it. I
The only
don't know if
thing-
you've ever done one of those, they're
Yeah,
super
the only
cake.
thing you freaked
Super
me out
easy.
was about the name, cause in my world, it's a monkey survey. But that's it. Other than that, I get it.
We're on the
Use
same page.
it- Use it frequently. So I wanna throw this out. I think we've got to move forward and get some serious traction on the salary thing. So I'd like a commissioner to volunteer to really get in the middle of that, as well as a commissioner to volunteer to do this.
Well, I'm kind of the HR guy, so if you'd like me to be in the salary, I'll be happy to take that
You'll do
on.
that?
No, I don't, yeah, you wanna arm
I'm
wrestle?
not,
I don't
no,
care.
I'm not trying to dodge it, I just don't, I wanna have equal opportunity for us, if you would be willing to take that on.
I'll do it.
My plate's reasonably full,
Yeah, you're doing a lot of, maintenance and.
so if we could, I think, don't you guys get those three entities and the commissioners together in workshop
Absolutely.
format? Probably, the biggest
Talk
problem is
about
gonna
it.
be finding a date that everybody agree on.
Yeah, you can do that, I'll do it.
And then we move forward and we get something budgeted.
Yeah, cause I think it's a simple process, we just need to do it.
Good. Well, thank you, this is what I was hoping would happen, some kind of discussion and get some direction.
Good.
Very good, all right, thank you, sir.
That clock is wigging me out. I'm telling you, did you see me looking at it, and then I was looking at my watch, I was like.
You can thank landfill for that.
I'll fix it,
Wow.
I'll turn it upside down.
Yeah,
Or that's a
or
joke.
turn
even
it,
help.
or turn it 180 degrees.
Yeah,
Now it's going.
now it's right.
That's going right. Well, thank you guys, I appreciate it, thanks for coming in. And before you leave,
Yeah, be
landfill
careful.
provided the clock, I provided a tool,
There's your tool.
and these two are gonna bring something.
What is
Don't
Is that all,
ask.
you're not sure?
Yes.
Oh, that's the
other-
never
it's
mind.
the other end,
It's
it's
the
the
other
other
end,
end,
yeah,
gotcha.
it sure is. Okay, that's it.
All right, thank
this one
you.
you're talking about?
We
You
can
don't
do
need
public,
me to
are you
write a
gonna do
letter
public
then,
comment, or
or
is she
you-
going?
I'm gonna do public comment, yes.
Cause I just wanna bring a
Right.
couple things to your
We'll just say letter to
attention.
post if
Steady.
you're gonna, so he knows
I
what's
just,
going on.
if Jackie was
Yeah.
next up, I
No,
wanted to
she's
jump in
done,
there,
she
cause I
is done.
have to be home by
All right.
dinner.
Yeah.
See, that's how come I don't get reports.
See, that was just mean.
Just about
What?
made me gavel.
Well, she knows I'm right.
Cause he was being rude. All right,
Hurtful.
next item of business, public comment. I'm gonna defer to Commissioner Prince for public comment because he asked and we blew by it like a bad habit. And that was, you wanted to have a little conversation about board packets.
I've already,
And, oh, you did?
it's all done.
Okay, sorry, cause I knew, I said, yeah, let's
I
do
felt-
that, and then
I felt very comfortable handling it,
Okay.
just on a
All right.
private suggestion, and it's all done.
Okay.
But thank you.
He
Had her in tears.
She tried to fire me.
We'll find you about that.
She's starting a petition.
Okay. And then just quickly, I failed to mention that tomorrow I will be attending the state land board meeting, down in Pueblo.
That's at 7:45.
7:45, yep, and then I'll leave from there and go straight to Upper Ark and then leave there and come back for Conservation District.
You're gonna
annual
run out of
meeting
gas.
tomorrow, so, busy day tomorrow for me, but I meant to tell you that. Public comment?
I have a
Sure,
quick one.
Barney. Go ahead, sir.
Yeah,
While we're waiting.
after him.
You're up.
Shannon do his thing.
So just wanna let you guys know, we did get notified yesterday that the JAG grant that we put in for, the radio system, so they haven't told us how much we were awarded, but we know we were awarded over 50% of what we requested, which was 125,000.
Were you
So we
sort
know
of
it's at least
expecting that?
62.5, I'm sorry?
Were you sort of expecting that, or did you think it was?
No, we were hopeful. Under Sheriff Barr and Sergeant Winslow went to Denver last week to present our case to the committee. And like I said, we got that yesterday, so we don't know what that number is yet. We know it's over 62.5. So that'll be a big impact on purchasing radios. Oh man, so I just went blank. So there's that. I just wanna let you guys know that we did get that. Now that those monies won't be available until January 1st, of 2020, but we'll have a plan in place, to replace, 30 radios maybe, with that. So that's good news on that. And there was something else I was gonna, also, so we have the new Connex. You've probably seen that, ugly yellow thing sucker over there now. We'll be working with Road and Bridge to get that set in place. We got some trusses already. We're gonna have to build a few more to make for the length of it, to span between the two connexes, so we'll have that spot in between them to store items as well. We're gonna start working on that this afternoon. The trusses just got, Mike brought the trusses up this morning. We'll get those unloaded and stuff, but wanna let you know, and then we will, once we have the connexes in place and everything, then we will get them painted so they won't be such an eyesore.
Yeah, quick comment.
And that's all funded through the marijuana grant, that we got, so.
You gonna paint it green?
Custer
That
green.
would be pretty funny. No, we're gonna paint it the same color as the building, we're pretty close.
So if I may, Mike and I talked, and I offered to bring my portable welder in if we need to weld brackets to bolt those trusses to. That offer's still on the table.
Okay, great.
And secondly, I spoke with Mr. Hyde about grading that area, not including the connexes, but more than the connexes, because we had talked about some drainage issues,
right.
obviously the whole roller coaster thing there, and both search and rescue. So hopefully when that happens, when he comes to do the connexes, maybe you can just mention, Commissioner Flowers said that there's a chance we could get some grading done. Can we do that at the same
I'll
time?
talk to
Which
Jerry.
he said he would.
Okay.
But just, I'm
Yeah,
telling you so that you can
because
follow
we're
up.
starting to get up to, because of the fencing that's gonna
Right.
be installed,
Yes.
which is also grant funded as well. So, the only reason the fencing isn't in right now is because we were waiting on the tower, the AT&T to get that tower
Right.
that's supposed to be done right. We were initially
Right.
told by the 1st of June, and they haven't.
Yeah, and
But
I
I
thought
think
about
it'll come up quick once they get rolling here
I
now.
thought about that too, is maybe we put a stake in the ground and say, this is where the corner of your tower fencing is going to be. We've waited and waited, so I can
Totally.
communicate that to them if we need to.
Yeah,
Because-
I mean,
Because the exact location, the GPS coordinates certainly haven't been shared with us.
right, and I mean, we were told June 1
Right.
that they would be done.
Right.
And they just had a
And they know we're
general
waiting
Right.
so we can
Right.
put a,
I don't
we
think
can
it'll
tie our
matter if
fence
it's
in.
10 feet one way or the other, so.
So
I
I'm
think we
wondering
could
if,
put a stake in.
if you're getting frustrated at that, maybe we build our fence and they locate accordingly, but
Yeah,
I don't
Yeah,
know.
maybe
that,
we could do that as
that's
well.
what I do.
Now the Connex building, we'll call it from now on, is gonna be inside the fencing, correct?
Yes, yes. So that new yellow one, that is 100% solely for evidence only. So it'll be locked, only 2 people in or my office will have access to a key to open that, and that'll be the evidence custodian, and then the undersheriff keeps an extra key in his office under lock and key.
Now, are you gonna do
So
overhead doors
No.
in the breezeway portion, or just leave it open for vehicles?
It'll be open
One
on,
end.
yeah, one end will be
The
open.
other end will be
The
closed.
back end will be closed off so the wind doesn't howl through there.
What distance are you talking about between the two
18.
connexes?
It'll be 19 feet between the two connexes, and then the trusses are big enough to cover both connexes, so there'll be roof
Right.
over both of them.
Exactly.
Be able to put your car in there.
No,
Only
not
if-
mine, but
only if it's
if I have
trailer.
one of our trailer
Only
or
if
one
it's
of
trailer.
those
Yeah,
other
yeah.
things.
Right.
Or if we have a vehicle that we, is involved in a crime and we're trying to protect it, we'll park it under there so the rain doesn't affect it.
Yeah.
And then we're gonna, one of the reasons we wanted to cover those connexes as well is so we can do some solar powered lighting in the connexes, because when you're trying to get in there, sometimes if it's dark or cloudy,
Good idea.
it's tough to see in the back of it, so we're gonna just do some solar stuff so we don't have to run electricity out there. And
You have a camera on it?
I had thought about it, but because our
I'm
cameras
not
around the
asking you to
building
give
are,
up any security issues by saying yes or no, just a thought.
yeah,
Okay, I'll drop the question.
gotcha.
Do we need to get some traction on a hood in the kitchen? Is that an issue over
Do you
there?
wanna spend that kind of money on that building?
It's gonna be a while before a new building gets built.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I mean, we could have that discussion, and I think that's more than a 5-minute discussion.
Yeah.
I mean, we could look into
I mean,
cost.
there's a lot of constrictions over there. Height of
Oh,
the ceiling that
right.
normally in a normal kitchen hood you say, yeah, put it in, but here it's not gonna be the same deal.
Right,
Most likely to be an invent.
right. Or maybe, or maybe, because one question that's brought up to me by my deputies has been, so you know, there at the back door, that telephone pole that goes up that held the old alarm system, so you know, several years ago, before my time, it had a major structural crack in it, and they came in and put those metal
Brackets.
and I've seen it too now, the wind blows a little bit, that telephone pole, man, it's moving around a lot, and I don't know if there's a point where we need to get rid of that thing.
Does it have the horns on it? And do we use those?
No.
No.
Now, if we had some major catastrophe, we might, they're still operable, but we do not use those anymore.
But they could go onto the tower.
And I think our office is beloved by the town that we don't use it anymore.
Yeah, it used to be pretty wild.
Every time there was a fire call, the whistle
Yep.
went off.
Oh, it used to be.
Yeah.
We were in court
So,
one day, and
probably don't need it.
the judge was sentencing a guy, and the alarm went off, so everybody in the court has
They
to stop.
evacuated.
The judge looked at me and he says, "What is that?" And I said, "That alarm goes every time you sentence somebody."
So we could look at removing the horns and getting that pole
We
out. If
could.
nothing else
We-
is on it.
We could even move the horns over to the,
Tower.
to the radio tower right, 25 feet away, so,
Okay.
for
We'll look
dispatch.
into that.
Okay.
We'll look into that. Anything else, sir?
Probably, but.
Yeah, it'll hit you at lunch, huh?
Yeah.
Oh, speaking of, I wonder whose turn it is.
Yeah.
Any further public comment? Yes, ma'am.
There are small birds out here with picket signs.
Yeah.
Just thought you.
Thank you. I'll make
needed
a,
to
let me
know.
make a note of that.
Has Brad Huff fixed that light out
No,
here?
he had asked us, I asked him about it, and he said, well, you probably should go to Dark Skies about that. And then I asked Chris about that. He retrieved the hood, he found it. And then I thought Brad said to me, either he asked you about it,
Yeah,
this Dark Skies?
Yeah, we said we'd pay for it. Brenda,
Okay.
I mean, I talked to Brenda about that. And the last I'd heard that he had ordered whatever he needed,
Okay.
but so
And I
somebody
don't think
just-
that's the case. I think he was waiting for direction. I will tell him if that's okay
Yeah,
with
just
your
tell him
organization.
to go ahead and fix whatever needs to be
You
done.
don't
send us
normally
the bill.
order those, so you get what you want as Dark Skies?
No, he knows, I mean, he's just
Okay.
gonna replace what's already there.
Okay, so we're okay
Yeah,
as
just,
far as Dark Skies go?
just tell him to go ahead
All
and
right,
do it.
I'll do that, thank you.
We are doing the senior barbecue for, our senior cookout for the high schoolers today.
Sheriff's Department?
Yeah, the sheriff's office is at, I think we start serving the kids at 12:40, so when they're out for lunch, but if you wanted to stop over there, you could.
Definitely.
Where's it gonna be? What part of it?
Right there in front of the school, you'll see
West.
us when you come down,
Parking
where
lot.
the school
West
buses,
lot.
where the big roundabout is for the school buses in there by
Oh,
the,
okay.
right outside the gymnasium, doors, east.
On the south
On
side.
the east gym.
On the south, up by the east gym.
Oh, you're on the east, yeah.
Cause that was blocked
On the
off
south
for
side there.
parking and stuff,
Okay.
Yeah,
but,
at least that's where,
That's what we've always done.
that's where
okay,
we've always done it.
not
so-
down here on the west end,
No,
up there, okay.
yeah, on the
Sweet.
east end, on the high school side,
Good,
yeah,
good, good.
if you wanna stop over there, you
Yep,
could.
we'll do it. All right, thank you.
Yeah.
Anything else for the good of the order? Public comment?
Okay, I had one.
Yeah, there's something in there.
You got it, come on.
Anything, gentlemen?
Real quick,
Yep.
you had mentioned earlier about Shanghai and an ag student, FFA type to help, I forget what it was. Reminded me that, at the airport, we took on we'll have, toward the end of the summer, the landscaping, erosion control, smoothing out some things and throwing some seed down might be a neat thing to get them to run a drill or if we can round up a drill or a broadcast spreader, do some help out.
Yeah, that's a good point. Certainly for a typical drill, those rocks.
Well, they're
causing issues.
rolling them
It looks pretty good. Where it will be rolled in and be released.
I would think broadcasting might be the best
Broadcast,
bet,
right.
certainly reach out to Kyle Evans, or I can mention it to him.
Okay.
Yes, sir, came to.
I did remember.
Good.
Meredith sent me the email, so you, gentlemen decided to do a meeting on the 20th for the contract review with, the judicial committee, is that?
Yes.
Yes,
So I'll send an email out to the whole judicial committee then.
9 o'clock.
Okay, so I will not be there.
Okay.
I'm gonna be out at, state, beginning, we leave next Tuesday, my youngest boy's coming back from deployment.
Good.
So,
Well, we just had to
we'll be
pick
in
a day,
Virginia.
so that's what we picked. If you want to
Yeah,
defer,
no,
we
that's
can.
fine, no, I think we need to get it done, so, I mean, I don't know any more about contracts than the next person when it comes to architectural stuff, so, I'll forward the judicial committee, if, under your direction, do you want me to forward them the contract that Riley Johnson sent?
I think so.
So they can look at it ahead of time?
Sure.
And then I've sent the examples that Rio Blanco and, Alamosa County had, so we can use those as references as well.
And we
Okay.
did get the courtroom.
Okay, perfect. So, yeah, it was a question of here in the courtroom,
Yeah.
so it's courtroom.
So I'll buzz that out
So-
to the committee,
Perfect,
and whoever can show up will be there.
thank you.
Do you want me to include, Rich,
No,
remember he came to a few of the meetings?
yep,
Okay,
I don't, but,
Okay, then.
because he hasn't been involved, so.
right,
You'll call.
okay,
All right, sir, thank you, appreciate it.
all right.
Thanks.
Anything else, gentlemen, come before the board?
Move we adjourn if it's appropriate.
Okay, I'll second it. It's been moved and seconded to adjourn. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye, opposed nay. Motion carried. Let the record show it's 11:27.